Echo of the Chimeric Reactor, a dimly lit laboratory hidden deep beneath the city's urban sprawl. In the center stands Diaria, her eyes flickering with an ethereal glow as she works intently over a table cluttered with alien technology and organic samples. The door creaks open, and in walks Kel, a man who seems to have been sculpted from living shadows. Diaria, he greets her, his voice like the wind rustling through autumn leaves. I sense changes. She looks up, meeting his gaze with an expression that betrays no emotion. The reactor is unstable again, she replies, her fingers dancing over a control panel. And so am I. The door slams open once more, and Agent Vale steps into the room, her eyes cold and calculating as they fall upon Kel. I've been searching for you, she growls. We need to talk. Diaria looks back at them both, her gaze hardening. You can never escape me, Agent Vale says, a menacing smile curling her lips. Kel steps closer, his body shifting and morphing as if made of water. I have never been one to run from a fight. The room fills with an electric tension, the air crackling with unspoken threats and hidden agendas. And in the midst of it all stands the protagonist, watching silently, their thoughts swirling like the chaotic energy pulsing through their veins. Their transformation is only just beginning, but they can already feel the power surging within them, a force that will change everything. But for now, they must choose their first steps carefully. The reactor's power is a double-edged sword, and wielding it requires careful balance between humanity and beast. If they can find that equilibrium, they might just survive this deadly game. But if they falter, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for them, but for everyone caught in the crossfire. Story present. As the sun sets on a desolate cityscape, Diaria and the protagonist sit in silence, each lost in thought as they watch the shadows grow longer. Kel approaches, his eyes scanning the landscape for signs of danger. Diaria, quietly. It's getting harder to ignore the changes, isn't it? The protagonist sighs heavily and looks down at their hands, claws extending from their fingertips. Protagonist, I can feel things I never could before. Kel sits beside them, his own mutations evident beneath his clothes. He places a hand on the protagonist's shoulder. Kel, we all go through it. It's part of the process. Diaria stands and walks toward a wall adorned with complex diagrams and charts. She runs her fingers over a series of symbols, her eyes narrowing in concentration. Diaria, the reactor is unstable. If we don't find a way to control it, things will only get worse. As the night grows colder, an ominous hum echoes through the city, signaling the arrival of Agent Vale and her men. They surround the lab, their weapons at the ready. Agent Vale, coldly. Hand over the reactor, Diaria. We're not going to ask again. Diaria turns to face them, her eyes flashing with defiance. Diaria, I will never give you what you want. Echoes of the Chimeric Reactor. In the dimly lit lab, the air is thick with tension. Diaria's eyes are aflame with unspoken secrets as she studies the reactor's readings. Protagonist stands beside her, their skin pulsating with an alien energy that seems to defy gravity. What are we dealing with here? Asks Kel, his voice barely above a whisper. An ancient power source, capable of granting us near immortality and godlike abilities, replies Diaria. Her eyes meet the protagonist's, and they share an unspoken understanding. Suddenly, the lab is flooded with light as Agent Vale bursts through a hidden door, weapon at the ready. I knew I'd find you here, she sneers. The room trembles as the reactor struggles to contain its power, and Diaria's grip tightens around her control console. What do you want? Demands the protagonist, their eyes flashing with anger. Agent Vale smirks, taking a step closer. I want what you have, she says, leveling her weapon. And I'll take it by any means necessary. The lab is filled with an electric charge as the reactor fights back against Agent Vale's intrusion. The air crackles with energy, and the room shakes violently. Diaria grits her teeth, trying to regain control of the situation. Back off, she warns, her voice trembling with effort. Agent Vale laughs, drawing closer. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time, she says, and the protagonist feels a surge of rage coursing through their veins. But I won't let you take it easily. As Agent Vale lunges towards Diaria, the protagonist reacts instinctively. A burst of energy erupts from their body, sending Agent Vale flying across the room. The lab falls silent as everyone stares at the wreckage left in her wake. "We've got to get out of here," whispers Cull, his eyes wide with fear. Daria nods, clutching the control console tightly. Yes, she agrees. "But first, we must destroy this thing before it destroys us." As they flee the lab, the reactor's power surges once more, and the city shakes with its might. The protagonist can feel the weight of destiny pressing down on them, and they know that this is only the beginning. The journey ahead will be fraught with danger, but they are no longer alone. In the dimly lit laboratory, the air hung heavy with tension. Daria's eyes scanned the room, searching for an escape or a means to defend against the impending confrontation with Agent Vale and her relentless pursuit of the reactor. The protagonist stood beside her, their heart pounding in time with the rhythmic hum of the unstable power source beneath their feet. Kel, their unlikely ally, leaned against a nearby wall, watching the two adversaries with a mixture of fear and determination. His own mutations granting him incredible strength and agility were a constant reminder that they were all fighting for survival in this strange new world. The lab's sterile white walls seemed to close in on them as Agent Vale moved towards the reactor, her weapon leveled and steady. "Hand over the reactor," she demanded, her voice cold and unyielding, "or I will be forced to make an example of you." Daria glanced at the protagonist, her eyes pleading for a plan. The protagonist's gaze shifted towards Cal, and they shared a silent understanding. As Agent Vale closed in on the reactor, the trio sprang into action. With a roar that echoed through the lab, Cal lunged at Agent Vale, his massive form crashing into her, knocking her off balance. The reactor pulsed dangerously as Agent Vale lost her grip on her weapon, sending it skittering across the floor. Daria seized the opportunity to grab hold of the reactor and began frantically inputting commands into a nearby console. As Kel wrestled with Agent Vale, the protagonist stepped closer, their eyes narrowed with determination. "Tell us what you know about this reactor," they demanded, their voice raw with emotion. Agent Vale gritted her teeth, struggling against Cal's iron grip. "I will not let you take it without a fight." With a final burst of strength, Cal tossed Agent Vale across the room, sending her crashing into a wall. She slid to the floor, dazed and winded. The protagonist approached her, their eyes burning with anger and fear. "You've made your choice," they hissed. Daria quickly finished her work at the console, and the reactor stabilized, its hum fading to a soft whisper. The trio shared a brief moment of relief before turning their attention back to Agent Vale, who was slowly regaining consciousness. "We can't trust you," Daria said firmly. "You have to leave and never return." Agent Vale glared at them, her eyes filled with hatred. "This is not the last time we meet," she whispered before disappearing into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of destruction in her wake. The trio stood together in the wreckage of the lab, their hearts pounding as they surveyed the damage. Daria turned to the protagonist, her expression grave. "We must find out more about this reactor and its true purpose." The protagonist nodded, determination etched on their face. "I will do whatever it takes," they vowed. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor in the heart of a desolate cityscape, the lab stands as a beacon amidst the ruins. The protagonist and Cal, their bond deepening through shared experiences, approach with cautious hope. Daria's eyes gleam with a mix of excitement and apprehension as she steps out to join them. "The data is overwhelming," she admits, gesturing towards the lab, "but it could hold our answers." Inside, they are confronted by an array of devices pulsating with unstable energy. The hum of the reactor grows louder as they delve deeper into the labyrinthine halls. The air is thick with anticipation and fear. "We must tread carefully," Kel warns. The reactor's instability could trigger unexpected consequences. As they navigate through the maze of machinery, Agent Vale closes in on their location. Her footsteps echo ominously as she stalks them like a predator on the hunt. "You cannot outrun me forever," she hisses, her voice dripping with malice. "The reactor is mine." With Agent Vale's arrival, tensions escalate. The lab trembles under the combined weight of their emotions and the unstable energy coursing through the walls. Aria steps forward, standing protectively in front of the protagonist. "I will not let you take what I have helped to create," she declares, her eyes flashing with defiance. "We are here to understand its purpose, not to be enslaved by it." With a snarl, Agent Vale lunges at Aria, but Kel moves swiftly to intercept her. The two collide in a whirlwind of fists and energy blasts, their struggle shaking the lab even further. The protagonist watches helplessly as the reactor's hum grows louder, threatening to shatter the fragile balance between humanity and their newfound powers. As they fight, the lab is flooded with visions of the ancient alien civilization that created the reactor. Memories of a time long past unfold before them, a war-torn planet where two factions battled for control of cosmic power, unleashing devastation upon their world. The protagonist feels a connection to these beings and their struggle, sensing that they hold the key to understanding their own transformation. In the midst of chaos, the reactor surges with newfound energy. The lab shakes violently as it threatens to tear itself apart. Aria grabs the protagonist, pulling them away from the collapsing lab and toward safety. Agent Vale's and Cull's battle rages on in the background, their struggle echoing the war that once tore an alien civilization apart. As they emerge from the rubble, Aria's eyes are wide with realization. "We must find a way to control this power," she whispers urgently, "before it consumes us all." The lab lay in ruins around them, debris scattered everywhere as they emerged from the collapsing room. The hum that had once signaled danger had now ceased, replaced by silence. Aria held onto the protagonist tightly, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "We must find another way to control this power," she said, glancing back at the lab they'd just left. "I believe there's another reactor hidden somewhere in the city." Cull, with a gash across his cheek from Agent Vale's attack, nodded grimly. He scanned their surroundings, taking inventory of their resources and weaknesses. "We need to move quickly and be cautious." "I agree," the protagonist replied, examining their own injuries. The wounds were shallow but painful evidence that the reactor was still unpredictable. "We should regroup and rest before we push forward." The trio found refuge in a forgotten corner of the city, hidden from prying eyes by crumbling buildings and overgrown vegetation. They set up camp amidst the wreckage, using their combined knowledge to start a fire and gather food. Aria tended to their wounds while Kel scouted for any signs of danger. As they rested, the protagonist couldn't shake off the feeling that something was still amiss. "I sense Agent Vale nearby," they said, looking at Aria. "She'll be back, and with reinforcements." Aria nodded gravely. "We knew this would not be an easy journey, but we have no choice if we want to control the reactor and protect humanity." "What do you think she wants with the reactor?" Kel asked, returning from his scout. "I'm afraid it may be more than just power," Aria replied. "There are things I haven't told you about my past, things that connect me to Agent Vale and this reactor." The protagonist looked at her, curious yet cautious. "You can trust us, Aria. We need your help to understand what we're dealing with." Aria hesitated for a moment before finally relenting. "I was once part of the organization that created this reactor. They sought to use it as a weapon against our enemies. But when I realized the potential destruction it could cause, I defected and hid it here in this city." "And Agent Vale?" the protagonist asked. "She was my protege," Aria said, her eyes clouding with sadness. "But she fell under their control and now seeks to reclaim the reactor at any cost." The group huddled together as the night grew darker, their conversation a silent bond that bound them tighter against the unknown dangers that awaited them in the city. They knew they would face Agent Vale again, but with Aria's secrets revealed, they had new hope for controlling the reactor and stopping the relentless pursuit. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desolate cityscape. The group found themselves huddled together in a hidden alcove deep within the abandoned laboratory. Cal tended to Aria's wounds while the protagonist examined their own injuries, trying to quell the gnawing ache that threatened to consume them. "We need to find another reactor," the protagonist said, gritting their teeth against the pain. Before Agent Vale catches up, Daria nodded, her eyes scanning the dimly lit lab for any potential leads. "I found something." She pointed to a wall adorned with cryptic symbols that glowed faintly in the gloom. Cale looked over her shoulder, his eyes narrowing as he took in the strange markings. "This feels familiar," he murmured. "I've seen these symbols before." The protagonist approached the wall, studying the symbols with a frown. As they traced their fingers along the ancient carvings, an eerie hum resonated through the room, causing the hairs on the back of their neck to stand on end. Suddenly, a hidden compartment slid open, revealing a small chamber filled with dust and debris. Inside lay another reactor, its power pulsating weakly within the decaying casing. The protagonist reached out, hesitating for just a moment before enveloping the device in their glowing aura. The air crackled as the reactor surged to life, filling the room with an intense light that threatened to burn away the shadows. As it stabilized, the humming subsided, and the room seemed to pulse with energy. "We found it," Daria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The key to controlling your mutations." But their triumph was short-lived as the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the lab. Agent Vale and her team burst into the room, weapons at the ready. "Hand over that reactor," she snarled, her eyes locking on the protagonist. "You won't take it from me," the protagonist growled, their eyes flashing with a newfound determination. In the forgotten corner of a desolate cityscape, the remnants of humanity huddled in makeshift shelters. The lab, where they had discovered the reactor, now lay abandoned, its secrets still locked away. Daria and Cale joined forces with the protagonist as Agent Vale and her relentless pursuit loomed over them all. Daria's eyes flickered with a strange intensity beneath her goggles. "The reactor holds the key to our survival," she murmured, her voice barely audible above the wind. "But it's not just about survival anymore. It's about understanding who we truly are. And what will that do for us?" the protagonist asked, their gaze fixed on the cityscape. "Will it make us more human or something else entirely?" Cale stepped closer, his eyes filled with a fierce determination. "We need to find out. We've come too far to turn back now." A sudden crash echoed across the city, making them all jump. The protagonist tensed, their hand instinctively reaching for the reactor hidden beneath their coat. Agent Vale had arrived. The trio retreated into a nearby alleyway, hearts pounding in their chests. Daria's eyes gleamed with urgency as she consulted her holographic schematics. "We need to reach the laboratory," she said. There may be a way to protect ourselves against her reinforcements. They navigated through the labyrinthine streets, Agent Vale's footsteps always seeming to be just behind them. The city seemed to close in around them as darkness fell, creating an oppressive atmosphere that clung like a shroud. Finally, they arrived at the laboratory's entrance. Daria inserted a series of codes into a keypad, the door sliding open with a hiss. Inside, they found what appeared to be an old research facility. The air was thick with dust and decay, but among the abandoned equipment, there was a sense of purpose, a feeling that this place held the answers they sought. Daria led them down a dimly lit corridor, her eyes scanning every surface for anything useful. The protagonist clutched the reactor tightly as they followed, their senses heightened, scanning for any sign of Agent Vale or her team. They entered a large room filled with rows of holographic tables and shelves lined with ancient artifacts. Daria walked to the center of the room, her eyes fixed on one particular artifact. "This," she said, pointing at a strange crystal, "may be our key." Cale's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Daria hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I believe that this crystal contains the knowledge of the alien civilization that created the reactor. If we can unlock its secrets, it could help us understand our own transformations." The protagonist glanced at the crystal, their mind racing with possibilities. Could they control their mutations? Could they find a way to avoid becoming something inhuman? Or would they be forced to embrace that destiny, whatever it may hold? Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the room. The group tensed, their hearts pounding as Agent Vale, and her team stormed into the laboratory. Aria's eyes narrowed, her hand reaching for something concealed beneath a pile of equipment. The battle began in earnest, the protagonist fighting to protect the crystal and the reactor. Agent Vale was relentless, but they were not alone. Together with Aria and Cull, they held their ground against her and her team, their newfound powers surging through them. As the fight raged on, the protagonist felt a strange connection to the crystal. It seemed to hum with an energy that resonated deep within them, as if it understood their struggle and offered its guidance. And in that moment, they knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The battle ended with the defeat of Agent Vale's team, but the protagonist knew that this was far from over. The reactor's secrets were still locked away, and they had only scratched the surface of their own transformations. But for now, they had a moment to catch their breath and prepare for whatever challenges awaited them in the days to come. The laboratory door slid open once more, letting in a flood of cold air and sunlight. The cityscape lay before them, a harsh reminder of the world outside. They glanced at Aria and Cull, knowing that they would need their help if they were to survive this journey. Together, they left the laboratory ready to face whatever fate had in store for them. As they stepped out into the cityscape, the protagonist felt a strange sense of resolve. They would not let themselves be defined by their mutations or the reactor's power. They would find a way to control it, to understand it, and to use it to protect what remained of humanity. And in doing so, they might just discover who they truly were. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor, the lab lay dormant, its once bustling halls now silent and eerie, as if time itself had forgotten it. The group tread carefully through the dimly lit corridors, a mix of anticipation and worriness in their eyes. Aria's fingers traced over ancient symbols etched into the walls, her mind racing with possibilities. This place, it's older than we thought, she murmured, almost to herself. It belonged to those who came before us. Maybe they hold the key to understanding the reactor. Cal nodded, his eyes fixed on the strange crystal that now rested in the protagonist's hands. We must be cautious. The knowledge we seek may not come without a price. As they delved deeper into the labyrinthine complex, the air grew colder and more oppressive. Their footsteps echoed ominously through the empty halls, until suddenly they were ambushed by a group of shadowy figures. Agent Vale has arrived, growled one of the men, brandishing a weapon that seemed to hum with energy. We've been searching for you. The protagonist's eyes narrowed as they took in the sight before them. The fight was brief but brutal, the group barely managing to fend off their attackers and make their escape. We need to find a way out, panted Aria, her breath ragged from the struggle. And quickly, Cal scanned the area, spotting a hidden door that had somehow eluded them before. With renewed determination, they raced towards it, their pursuers hot on their heels. The academy lies ahead, gasped Aria, catching her breath as they stumbled out into the open air. We must reach it before Agent Vale catches up. As they ran through the desolate cityscape, the group could feel the weight of the reactor pulsing within them. Its power seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment, a beacon that drew both friends and foes alike. We can't keep running forever, muttered Cull, his voice barely audible over the sound of their pursuers closing in. There has to be another way. Just then, a sudden explosion rocked the city, sending debris raining down around them. The group ducked for cover, watching as Agent Vale and her team emerged from the smoke and fire. You can't escape me, she snarled, advancing towards them with cold determination in her eyes. The reactor is mine. But the protagonist was no longer the same person they once were. With a newfound strength and clarity, they stood their ground, ready to face whatever lay ahead. I'll decide what becomes of this artifact, they declared, facing Agent Vale with steely resolve. Not you. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, the group fighting for their lives against a force that seemed almost supernatural in its power, but they were not alone. As they fought, they felt something stir within them, a connection to the crystal, a bond that offered guidance and strength. In the end, it was this connection that saved them. The protagonist lunged at Agent Vale, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as they struck her down. sending her tumbling into the darkness below. "We did it," panted Diaria, collapsing to the ground as the adrenaline wore off. "But we can't rest yet." Cal nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "We have a long journey ahead of us. But together, we'll face whatever comes next." In the forgotten corner of a desolate cityscape, the group huddled around their makeshift shelter, weary from battle but united in determination. Diaria tended to the protagonist's wounds while Kale watched over them both, his eyes filled with concern. "We must move on," Diaria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The academy lies ahead, and it may hold answers about our transformations." "But what of Agent Vale?" the protagonist asked, their voice tinged with fear. "Will she follow us there?" "She will," Kale replied grimly. "And we must be ready for her." As they set off towards the academy, the cityscape around them seemed to shift and change. The once desolate streets were now filled with strange, otherworldly beings. Some approached them warily while others watched from the shadows, their intentions unclear. The group moved cautiously through the labyrinthine complex, each step bringing them closer to the academy but also drawing unwanted attention. They encountered a group of mutated creatures who eyed them with suspicion, their bodies twisted and grotesque, a testament to the city's dark past. "I sense a familiar presence," Cal warned, his gaze scanning the crowd. "We must be careful." In an alleyway, they found themselves face to face with Agent Vale, her eyes cold and calculating as she surveyed them. The protagonist stepped forward, their resolve unbroken. "You will not take what is mine," the protagonist said defiantly. "Not without a fight." Agent Vale sneered, her hand reaching for a concealed weapon. Before either of them could act, a sudden explosion rocked the alleyway, sending debris flying everywhere. The group dove for cover as more explosions echoed through the cityscape. "We have company," Diaria called out, her voice tight with fear. Victor's men are here. The battle was fierce and brutal, the protagonist using every ounce of their strength to fend off Agent Vale and her team. In the chaos, the crystal pulsed with energy, its light illuminating the alleyway as it amplified the protagonist's powers. The mutated creatures that had watched from the shadows joined the fight, adding their own brutal tactics to the already chaotic scene. As the battle raged on, Diaria and Curl fought alongside the protagonist, their combined efforts slowly turning the tide. Agent Vale, though determined, found herself overwhelmed by the group's united front. With a final burst of energy, the crystal unleashed a powerful surge that sent Agent Vale flying into the distance. Exhausted but victorious, the group emerged from the battle-scarred alleyway, their bodies battered and bruised. The academy loomed before them, a beacon of hope amidst the destruction. They had survived another day, but they knew that the greatest challenges still lay ahead. "We cannot rest yet," Diaria said, her voice heavy with emotion. "We must press on if we are to uncover the secrets of our transformations and protect the reactor." In Echoes-of-the-Chimeric-Reactor, the group limps into a forgotten corner of the cityscape, weary from their latest battle against Agent Vale and her team. The protagonist's body is battered but healing thanks to Diaria's medical expertise. Cal, ever watchful, keeps an eye out for trouble as they rest in a makeshift shelter. "This city, it's unlike anything I've ever seen," whispers the protagonist, gazing at the twisted architecture around them. Daria nods, her eyes scanning the horizon. It was once an ancient academy, designed to teach students how to evolve into powerful beasts for survival in the face of apocalypse. She pauses, looking thoughtful. "But I sense something unusual here." Kale's ears twitch, and he turns his gaze towards the labyrinthine complex looming ahead. "I agree. The energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered so far." The protagonist groans as they sit up, determination etched on their face. "We can't rest for long. We need to find answers, and fast." As they continue through the city, they notice a peculiar crystal embedded in the ground, pulsating with an eerie glow. Diaria approaches it cautiously, her eyes widening as she touches it. This is remarkable. It's from the same alien race that created the reactor." Suddenly, a deafening alarm blares from somewhere nearby, and the ground beneath them starts to tremble. The crystal emits a bright flash of light, revealing a hidden entrance to the academy. Agent Vale steps out of the darkness, her expression cold and calculating. "I've been waiting for you." She turns to her team, issuing commands as they move towards the group, weapons at the ready. In the heart of the labyrinthine complex, the group finds themselves surrounded by remnants of a once great civilization. The air is heavy with anticipation as they tread carefully along the abandoned corridors. Aria's eyes sparkle with curiosity, while Cal seems uneasy, his intuition sensing danger lurking in the shadows. "We must be cautious," whispers Cal, scanning their surroundings warily. "The academy was designed for transformation. I fear it may still have surprises waiting." Aria nods, her mind racing with questions about the connection between the ancient academy and the reactor. "If we can find answers here, we may finally understand why we were transformed," she says determinedly. The group presses onward, their footsteps echoing ominously through the deserted halls. The pulsating crystal they found earlier continues to glow softly in Aria's hand, emitting an eerie light that casts long, unsettling shadows. Suddenly, a series of alarms blares throughout the academy. "Agent Vale," Aria murmurs, clenching the crystal tightly in her fist. "She found us." With Agent Vale's relentless pursuit closing in, the group hastily takes shelter in an alleyway, trying to regroup and formulate a plan. The sound of footsteps echoes through the academy as the shadowy organization's agents close in on their location. "We must move quickly," Aria says urgently. "I believe there's another way out, deeper within the academy." As they hurry down a dimly lit corridor, the group encounters other mutants, remnants of the academy's failed students, who now roam the halls as ferocious beasts. The battle against Agent Vale and her team is imminent, forcing them to make difficult choices between their humanity and the need for survival. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor, the dimly lit corridor stretched out before them like a winding maze, echoing with their footsteps. The group's eyes were drawn to the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground nearby a beacon amidst the darkness. "It's been growing stronger since we entered the academy," Cal whispered, peering at it cautiously. "We should be careful." Aria nodded, her gaze flicking between the crystal and Agent Vale's reinforcements approaching in the distance. "We must move quickly." The group made their way deeper into the labyrinthine complex, evading mutated students turned predators. The academy seemed to have a life of its own, one that thrived on the struggle for survival. As they reached an intersection, a sudden rumble shook the ground beneath them. A wave of heat washed over them as the crystal began to glow brighter than ever before. "We need to find cover," Aria shouted, pulling the group towards a nearby alleyway. The blast that followed rocked the academy, collapsing walls and creating chaos in its wake. When the dust settled, Agent Vale emerged from the rubble, her eyes locked on them. "You're not going anywhere," she snarled. With nowhere to run, they braced themselves for battle. The air crackled with tension as Agent Vale and her team closed in. But then a new sound filled their ears, a chorus of roars from the depths of the academy. The mutated students were responding. In an instant, the fight was diverted, leaving the group to slip away unnoticed through hidden passages and abandoned corridors. They found themselves in a forgotten corner of the cityscape, surrounded by towering ruins that seemed out of time. "We need to find shelter," Aria said as they huddled together, looking out at the desolate landscape. "The academy is no longer safe." Cal nodded, scanning their surroundings for a place to rest. "I know a place," he whispered, leading them towards an ancient cityscape that had somehow managed to remain untouched by the passage of time. As they entered the city, they found it bustling with activity, students and teachers alike moving about their lives as if nothing was amiss. Among them were familiar faces, Elias and Zara, fellow students who seemed to have adapted remarkably well to their new forms. "I never thought I'd see you again," Zara said, her eyes filled with surprise. "Word of your escape spread quickly. We need your help," Aria replied, explaining their situation and the danger they faced from Agent Vale and her organization. Elias looked torn between loyalty and fear as he considered their request. Finally, He nodded reluctantly. "I'll help you, but only if it means we can stop this madness." With a new ally at their side, the group ventured deeper into the ancient cityscape, searching for answers about the Academy and a way to put an end to the chaos once and for all. They knew that Agent Vale would not rest until she had claimed the reactor for herself, and they couldn't afford any more distractions or setbacks. The once Grand Academy stood as a testament to the forgotten era, its ancient walls now scarred with the marks of time. The group, weary from their journey, found temporary refuge in a makeshift shelter within an abandoned alleyway. Kel's eyes traced the crumbling brickwork, his mind constantly evaluating their surroundings for hidden dangers. Aria sat beside the protagonist, her fingers gently tracing patterns on the crystalline structure they carried. Her lips moved in a silent prayer to the unknown powers that held this alien artifact's secrets. The pulsating crystal beat rhythmically like a heart within her hands, sending waves of energy surging through the air. "We can't stay here," Cal murmured, breaking the silence. "Agent Vale and her reinforcements will be closing in soon." The protagonist nodded, their eyes focused on the crystal. They felt its power growing within them, a strange mixture of fear and excitement coursing through their veins as they sensed its potential. "We need to find a way to control it," Aria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I believe that this academy holds the key." With renewed determination, the group prepared to venture deeper into the labyrinthine complex. They traversed through dimly lit corridors and abandoned classrooms, their footsteps echoing like distant thunder in the empty halls. As they ventured further, they encountered other mutants who had been altered by the crystal's power, some friendly, others hostile. The protagonist battled against these creatures, struggling to maintain control over their newfound powers as they fought for survival. Zara proved herself a fierce warrior, her strength and agility rivaling even the most formidable mutants. Elias, once a scholar, grappled with his transformation, unsure of how to harness his abilities for combat. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the Academy's foundations, followed by the distant sound of footsteps. Agent Vale and her reinforcements had arrived. The group retreated into an intersection, their hearts pounding with fear as they prepared to face their relentless pursuer once more. The battle was fierce, but the protagonist, Aria, Cal, Zara, and Elias fought valiantly, their combined powers pushing back against Agent Vale's forces. The pulsating crystal glowed brighter with each passing moment, its energy surging through them all as they battled for control of their destinies. As the dust settled, the group stood victorious, but exhausted. They had won this battle, but they knew that Agent Vale would not give up easily. They needed to find a way to stop her once and for all and to unlock the secrets hidden within the Academy's depths. "We can't keep running," Aria said, her voice heavy with determination. "It's time we faced our enemies head-on." With renewed resolve, they ventured deeper into the Academy, each step bringing them closer to unlocking the secrets of their transformations and the true purpose of the Chimeric Reactor. The fate of humanity and the cosmos hung in the balance. The group continued to explore the forgotten corners of the ancient cityscape, uncovering hidden passages and abandoned corridors that led them deeper into the labyrinthine complex. They encountered more mutated students turned predators, each battle testing their mettle and pushing them closer to understanding their newfound powers. As they ventured further, Aria began to decipher the Academy's hidden curriculum, a series of trials designed to evolve its students into powerful beasts capable of surviving the impending apocalypse. The group realized that they were not alone in their struggle, and that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. In a forgotten corner of the cityscape, they discovered an entrance to a mysterious academy hidden within the ruins. Stepping inside, they found themselves surrounded by a labyrinthine complex filled with ancient knowledge and powerful artifacts. The pulsating crystal's energy surged through them all, its power growing as they delved deeper into the academy. The group encountered Elias and Zara once more, who had been seeking answers within the academy's halls. Together, they faced new trials and challenges, each pushing them closer to unlocking their full potential. As they navigated the complex, they began to understand the true cost of the power that coursed through them, a price that none could truly prepare for. In a dimly lit corridor, Diaria stumbled upon a hidden chamber containing the origins of the chimeric reactor and the key to controlling its power. As she studied the artifacts within, Agent Vale and her reinforcements burst into the room, their pursuit relentless as ever. The final battle for the fate of humanity unfolded before them. The protagonist, Diaria, Cal, Zara, Elias, and their new allies fought against Agent Vale and her team, the power of the pulsating crystal coursing through them all. The room shook with each blow exchanged, the air crackling with energy as the two sides clashed in an epic struggle for control. In the end, the protagonist stood victorious, their newfound powers allowing them to defeat Agent Vale and her forces. As the dust settled, they looked upon the artifacts within the chamber, realizing the true purpose of the chimeric reactor not as a weapon, but as a means to evolve humanity into something greater. With the battle won, the group faced a new challenge, deciding whether to embrace their bestial nature or cling to their humanity. The protagonist grappled with this decision, torn between the life they once knew and the power that now coursed through them. In the end, they made a choice, one that would change not only their own fate, but the course of humanity itself. As they stepped out of the academy and into the ruins beyond, they felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement, knowing that their destiny was no longer in their hands, but held by the cosmic forces that had brought them together. The series continued to unfold, with the protagonist and their allies facing new challenges and enemies, as they navigated this new world filled with mutation, danger, and the unknown. The chimeric reactor remained a constant presence within them, its power growing and shaping their every decision as they journeyed towards an uncertain future. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor, a tense silence hung over the group as they huddled together amidst the rubble, their eyes locked onto the hidden entrance to the academy before them. The air was thick with anticipation, each heart pounding in unison like a drum. Diaria, Cal, and the protagonist exchanged glances, their faces etched with determination as they prepared for what lay ahead. "We've come too far to turn back now," said Diaria, her voice barely above a whisper. "The answers we seek are within." Before them stood an ancient doorway, half buried in the earth and surrounded by twisted metal and shattered stone. A strange energy pulsed from its center, casting eerie shadows across their faces. The protagonist took a deep breath, feeling the reactor humming beneath their skin, urging them forward. "Let's move," Cal said, his voice filled with resolve. "Time is running out." Together they ventured into the academy, their steps echoing off the cold stone walls. The labyrinthine corridors stretched out before them like a maze, twisting and turning in every direction. It wasn't long before they stumbled upon another group of mutants, Elias and Zara. "You must be the ones who've been causing all this commotion," Zara said warily, her eyes flickering with suspicion. Elias stepped forward, a look of relief washing over him when he recognized Diaria. "I never thought I would see you again." The group explained their purpose and asked for their help in navigating the academy's trials. After some hesitation, Zara agreed to guide them through the hidden passages and abandoned corridors, while Elias offered intel on the mutated students turned predators that lurked within the ancient walls. As they pressed deeper into the academy, the group encountered more of these strange beasts, battling for survival against the ever-growing threat. The protagonist felt the reactor's power surging inside them, guiding their movements and granting them new abilities to overcome their foes. But with each victory came a greater sense of unease. The line between human and beast grew thinner with every passing moment. The final battle against Agent Vale and her team took place in a hidden chamber containing the origins of the chimeric reactor. As they fought, the protagonist could feel the weight of their choices pressing down upon them. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and the consequences of their actions would be felt for generations to come. In a moment of clarity, the protagonist made a choice, one that would change their life forever. As Agent Vale fell before them, defeated but not broken, they realized the true power they held within. The decision would set the course for their future and determine the fate of humanity as they knew it. With the battle won, the group retreated to a makeshift shelter in the heart of the academy. Exhausted but victorious, Daria tended to their wounds while Cal offered words of encouragement. Ellie and Zara stood watch, their eyes filled with newfound respect for the protagonist and their incredible power. As the sun set over the ancient cityscape, the group huddled together, each lost in thought, as they pondered what lay ahead. The journey had been long and treacherous, but they knew that their quest was far from over. The revelation of their true purpose and the true power of the chimeric reactor would force them to confront their deepest fears, test their resolve, and challenge their very existence. The dimly lit corridor echoed with footsteps as the group approached an intersection. The air was thick with tension, both from the looming battle against Agent Vale and her reinforcements, and from the strange crystal embedded in the ground that pulsated ominously. "We should split up," Daria suggested. "Cal, you stay with Elias. Protagonist, follow me. Zara, take point." The group nodded silently, their eyes focused on the task ahead. As they moved forward, a sudden blast rocked the corridors behind them, shaking the ground beneath their feet. A roar echoed through the labyrinthine complex as Agent Vale and her team emerged from the rubble. "They're here," Zara whispered, her eyes leaving the approaching figures. "It's time." Daria pressed her hand against the crystal, and it pulsated in response. The walls around them seemed to ripple, revealing hidden passages and abandoned corridors that branched out like veins in a body. "This way," Daria said, leading them through the twisting paths. Behind them, Agent Vagel's team closed in. In an alleyway, they found refuge in a makeshift shelter. The pulsating crystal glowed brighter, its energy coursing through the air. Kel looked at it warily, his eyes wide with fear and wonder. "What is this thing?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Daria hesitated before answering. "An artifact from the alien civilization that created the reactor. It has the power to control our mutations." Zara stepped forward, studying the pulsating crystal. "If we can harness its power, we might stand a chance against Agent Vale and her team." As they waited for Victor's men to pass, the group discussed their plans. Daria cautioned them about the potential consequences of using such immense power, but the others were determined. In the end, it was the protagonist who made the final decision. "We don't have a choice," they said, their voice filled with resolve. "We must take this risk." Daria sighed, nodding reluctantly. Together they placed their hands on the crystal, feeling its energy surge through them. The ground shook once more as their bodies began to change, adapting and growing stronger. Echoes of the chimeric reactor, the group treads cautiously through the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy. The air is thick with tension as they seek refuge in a hidden chamber. Kel, the mutant ally, scans the area with his heightened senses, while Daria examines the pulsating crystal, its energy flickering faintly within her grip. "The crystal's power is unlike anything I've ever encountered," she murmurs, studying the artifact closely. "It could change everything." Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past, eyes the crystal warily. "And what if it changes us too much? What if we lose ourselves in the process?" "We must consider our options carefully," Daria replies gravely, "but time is running out." Agent Vale and her team are closing in. As if on cue, a sudden explosion rocks the academy, sending rubble cascading through the corridors. The group hastily gathers their belongings, knowing they must act fast to stay one step ahead of Agent Vale. "We've got to move," Kel says urgently. "Victor's men will be here soon." The group navigates the hidden passages and abandoned corridors, weaving through the forgotten cityscape like ghosts in the night. The protagonist clutches the crystal tightly, feeling its power coursing through their veins, growing stronger with each beat of their heart. In a nearby alleyway, they come across Elias, the former scholar who became a student at the academy. He's visibly shaken and struggling to control his newfound powers. I don't think I can do this anymore," he stammers, looking at them with despair in his eyes. Zara steps forward, offering a reassuring smile. "We all have our doubts, but we'll face this together." As the group leaves Elias behind to rest, they know they must press on. They tread carefully through the dimly lit corridor, approaching an intersection where they sense Agent Vale and her reinforcements lurking nearby. They're close, Cal warns, his senses alert. "We need to be ready." Diaria nods, gripping the crystal tightly. "I think I know a way we can turn this battle in our favor." With the crystal pulsating in her hand, she channels its energy into herself, feeling a surge of power coursing through her body. She raises her arm, and an ethereal glow surrounds her. Diaria, the protagonist, exclaims, awestruck by her transformation. "What have you done?" "I've tapped into the crystal's potential." Diaria replies calmly, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "It will give us a fighting chance against Agent Vale and her team." With renewed determination, the group charges forward, ready to face their pursuers head-on. As they burst into the open alleyway, they are met by Agent Vale and her reinforcements, who stand ready for battle. The air crackles with tension as the two sides square off, each side knowing that this confrontation will determine more than just the fate of the reactor. It could change everything about their lives forever. The battle commences, with the group fighting to protect the crystal and the power it holds. Diaria's newfound abilities prove invaluable, allowing them to hold their own against Agent Vale's formidable forces. In the heat of combat, the protagonist feels a strange connection to the crystal, sensing its energy coursing through their veins and strengthening their mutations. As the battle rages on, the group fights tirelessly, knowing they must push forward if they hope to survive. The air is thick with the scent of blood and the sound of clashing metal, but they refuse to back down. In the chaos, the protagonist senses a shift within themselves. They are changing, becoming something more than human, something powerful enough to stand against Agent Vale's relentless pursuit. A dimly lit corridor stretches out before them, empty and foreboding. The group advances cautiously, the weight of the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground heavy upon them. Diaria's newfound ethereal form shimmered around her, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "We should be careful," whispered Carl, glancing back at the hidden passage they had just left. "Agent Vale won't give up." The protagonist nodded, clutching the crystal tightly as it pulsated rhythmically beneath their grip. They felt its power coursing through them like an electric current, filling them with a strange sense of calm and resolve. "We can't let her take this," said Elias, his voice barely above a whisper. He shifted nervously, the weight of his newfound powers heavy on his shoulders. "I didn't ask for this." Zara offered him a reassuring smile. "We didn't ask for any of this, but we're here now. We fight together." The group pressed deeper into the labyrinthine complex, each step echoing ominously off the ancient stone walls. Ahead, they saw a flickering light that seemed to beckon them forward. As they approached, the shadows shifted and revealed an open doorway leading to a hidden chamber. Inside, they found themselves surrounded by shelves filled with strange artifacts and alien technology. The air was thick with a sense of history and power, making their senses tingle with anticipation. A pulsating crystal sat atop a pedestal in the center of the room, radiating energy like a beacon. As they crossed the threshold, Zara's eyes fell upon another crystal embedded in the wall nearby. It seemed to hum with a similar energy as the one they held. She reached out and touched it tentatively, feeling a surge of power coursing through her veins. "What is this place?" asked Elias, his voice shaking slightly. "And why are there more crystals?" Diaria's ethereal form flickered as she stepped forward, touching the crystal with reverence. "This is an ancient academy dedicated to studying and harnessing the power of these crystals." The protagonist felt a sudden surge of energy as Diaria spoke, the crystal in their hand pulsating even more rapidly. They looked down at it, sensing its connection to Diaria's crystal. "These crystals are not just artifacts. They are keys," she continued, "keys to unlocking our true potential. With them, we can harness the power within ourselves and become something greater." Zara stepped closer to her, a determined look in her eyes. "Then let's do it. Let's become greater." As they stood there, surrounded by ancient relics and pulsating crystals, the group made their decision. They would harness this power, whatever the cost. With Daria's guidance, they began to focus on their own crystals, feeling their bodies adapt and grow stronger with each passing moment. As the transformation took hold, the air grew heavy with anticipation. The protagonist could feel their muscles bulking up, their senses sharpening, and their reflexes improving. They were becoming something more than human, something powerful and terrifying. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber as Agent Vale and her reinforcements burst in from the hidden passageway. The group tensed, ready for battle. "We won't let you take this," growled Zara, standing tall and fearless. Not without a fight. The protagonist felt a surge of adrenaline as they charged forward, crystal in hand, ready to defend what they had come to cherish. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, but the group held their own against Agent Vale's team. Daria's newfound powers proved crucial, allowing them to dodge and counterattack with ease. In the heat of combat, the protagonists sensed a change within themselves. They felt their body adapt further, becoming stronger with each strike they landed. The crystal pulsated wildly in their hand, filling them with an indescribable sense of power. Despite their best efforts, Agent Vale and her team began to falter under the group's onslaught. As the dust settled, the protagonists stood tall, victorious but weary. They knew that this was only the beginning, with more challenges ahead on their journey towards self-discovery and destiny. The group retreated to a nearby alleyway to catch their breath, exhausted but triumphant. Daria's ethereal form hovered around them protectively as they regrouped. "We did it," whispered Elias, his voice filled with relief. "But we can't stay here." Zara nodded solemnly. "We need to find a safe place to rest and recover, and then we'll continue our search for answers." Tidan. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor, the group, battered and bruised from their recent skirmishes, stumbled through an alleyway in the heart of a desolate cityscape. The once grand buildings now stood as hollow husks of their former glory. Daria's eyes flickered with determination as she clutched onto the pulsating crystal tightly, her body glowing softly from within. "We need to move quickly," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant rumble of footsteps. "Agent Vale and her team are closing in." The protagonist nodded grimly, their own wounds still stinging painfully. "We can't rest yet," they muttered under their breath. "Not until we find those crystals Daria mentioned." Kel scanned the alleyway around them, eyes narrowed as he sensed the presence of other mutants in the area. "They're here," he warned, pointing towards a nearby alleyway. "I can feel their power radiating from them." Daria nodded, her gaze hardening. "Then let's show them what we're made of." The group charged forward, bursting into the abandoned alleyway just as the mutated students turned predators, lunged at them. The battle was fierce and brutal, but the group held their own against the creatures, fueled by the pulsating crystal's power surging through their bodies. Daria's newfound ethereal form allowed her to manipulate energy around her, creating powerful force fields and blasts that sent the mutants scurrying back into the shadows. In the heat of battle, the protagonist felt a change within themselves, their body growing stronger, more powerful with each passing moment. As they fought, they realized this was what Daria meant about unlocking their true potential. With renewed determination, they pushed forward, their fists crackling with electricity as they slammed them into the faces of their attackers. Finally, after a grueling fight, the group emerged victorious, panting and exhausted but unbroken. "We need to move," Daria urged, her voice still filled with urgency. "Agent Vale's reinforcements are approaching." As they sprinted deeper into the cityscape, the protagonist couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about them now, that their transformation was far from complete. They could sense the power within themselves, waiting to be tapped and unleashed. With a newfound resolve, they vowed to never stop until they discovered what lay hidden in the labyrinthine complex ahead. With every step, the cityscape around them seemed to shift, buildings crumbling beneath their feet, as though the very foundations of reality were being rearranged. The group moved through a forgotten corner of the city, the air filled with an energy that seemed to hum in time with their heartbeats. Daria's eyes glimmered with an intensity they had never seen before, her gaze fixed on something just over their shoulder. This way, she whispered urgently, leading them deeper into the rubble and hidden passageways. We must hurry. The protagonist felt a strange connection to the alien cityscape, as if it were whispering secrets to them, guiding them through its labyrinthine corridors. They could feel the weight of history pressing down on them, layers upon layers of stories left untold and battles fought long ago. The crystal in their possession pulsed steadily, its energy resonating with the city's own ancient power. Suddenly, Agent Vale's voice echoed through the ruined corridors. I'll find you, no matter where you hide. Kel tightened his grip on the makeshift weapons they had scavenged from fallen mutants, his expression determined as he stared into the distance. We can't rest until we know what this crystal and these mutations mean, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Daria nodded, her eyes never leaving the path ahead. I believe that we are not alone in our search for answers, she murmured, glancing back at the protagonist. Perhaps within these ruins we will find others like us. As they ventured deeper into the city, the group encountered more mutants, some friendly, others hostile. They fought for survival against the predators that had risen from the ashes of humanity, their own transformations fueled by the crystal's power. With each battle, the protagonist felt a strange compulsion to take on more and more of their new form, the line between human and beast growing thinner with every passing moment. One night, while taking shelter in an abandoned alleyway, the protagonist experienced another surge of power, their body contorting in ways they didn't understand. They felt a wave of fear wash over them as they struggled to regain control, Cull and Daria rushing to help. In that moment, they realized the true extent of their transformation. They were no longer just human. The following day, the group discovered a hidden entrance to an ancient academy, its crumbling walls adorned with symbols and carvings that seemed to dance in the dim light. The protagonist felt drawn to the academy, sensing a connection to something deep within its heart. As they crossed the threshold, they couldn't shake the feeling that their destiny lay waiting just beyond the labyrinthine corridors ahead. As they ventured deeper into the academy, they encountered Elias, a former scholar who had become a student at the academy. His eyes flickered with fear and desperation as he begged them for help, speaking of the trials that awaited him within the labyrinthine complex. Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past, stood protectively beside him, her gaze never wavering from the group. You must help us, Elias pleaded, his voice trembling. I don't want to become a monster like this. I want to be human again. The protagonist felt a familiar pain twist in their chest, knowing all too well what it was to struggle with the weight of change. They looked at Daria, seeking guidance as they considered whether they could help Elias and Zara navigate the trials ahead. Little did they know that their own fate was about to become intertwined with these strangers, forever altering the course of their journey. Echoes-of-the-Chimeric-Reactor, a dimly lit corridor stretches out before the group as they tread carefully through the labyrinthine complex. The air is thick with tension, a constant reminder of Agent Vale and her relentless pursuit. Daria leads them forward, her eyes scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. This place, it feels familiar, Cal murmurs, his gaze fixed on the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground ahead. I've seen something like this before. The protagonist watches as Cal approaches the crystal, reaching out to touch its surface. A sudden jolt courses through their body, and they feel a strange energy pulsing within them. The crystal's power surges through their veins, amplifying their senses and enhancing their already formidable abilities. We can use this, Daria says, her voice barely above a whisper, but we must be careful. This power is dangerous. As they make their way deeper into the ancient academy, they come across more mutants, some hostile, some not. The group battles against those that attack, but it becomes clear that many of these creatures were once humans like them, twisted and corrupted by the crystal's power. They reach an open doorway leading to a hidden chamber, and inside they find Elias and Zara. The two mutants are injured, their bodies scared and bruised from their battles against other predators. We need your help, Zara says, her voice barely audible. We've lost control of our transformations, and we can't stop turning into these monsters. Elias nods in agreement, his eyes filled with fear and desperation. We thought you might know a way to reverse it. The crystal. It seems to be the source of all this. Area studies them for a moment before nodding. I think I can help, but we'll need to act quickly. Agent Vale and her reinforcements are closing in. The group makes a plan, knowing that time is running out. They gather their resources and prepare themselves for the battle ahead, knowing that it will take every ounce of strength they possess to defeat Agent Vale and save Elias and Zara. As they step out into the alleyway, they can hear the distant sound of gunfire and explosions. Agent Vale's team is nearby, their intent clear: capture the protagonist and reclaim the Chimeric Reactor at any cost. The group readies themselves for battle, knowing that this will be a fight to the end. They steel themselves against the pain and fear, focusing on the task at hand, protecting humanity from the darkness that threatens to consume them all. The group treads cautiously through the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy. A sense of urgency weighs heavy as Agent Vale's pursuit grows ever closer. They reach an intersection, and Area whispers, "We must split up to avoid detection." "Kel, stay with me." The protagonist nods, glancing at Elias and Zara before they part ways. He can feel the crystal pulsating in his pocket, its energy coursing through him like liquid fire. The weight of their predicament settles upon him as he follows Area down a dimly lit corridor. Meanwhile, Elias and Zara exchange tense glances. "We cannot afford to lose the crystal," Zara growls. "Its power could turn the tide against Agent Vale." Elias grits his teeth, struggling with the newfound strength coursing through him, but controlling it. "I fear I am not strong enough yet. We must trust each other," Zara replies, drawing her weapon. "For the sake of humanity, we must survive." Suddenly, they hear distant gunfire and the sounds of a fierce battle echoing through the corridors. They exchange determined glances, knowing they must act fast. As they move deeper into the labyrinth, they encounter other mutants, their fellow students turned predators. "We cannot let them take the crystal," Elias murmurs, readying himself for combat. "For our sake and humanity's." Zara nods, her eyes blazing with determination. They engage in battle, their newfound powers clashing as they fight for survival against the mutated students. The crystal's energy surges through Elias, amplifying his senses and abilities. He feels a surge of adrenaline as he uses it to gain the upper hand. As they push through the battle, they hear the blast that follows Agent Vale, and her reinforcements have arrived. They retreat into an alleyway, knowing they cannot face them alone. "We must find help," Elias pants, clutching his side. "We cannot let Agent Vale take the crystal." Zara nods, gritting her teeth. "I know a hidden chamber where we might find allies," she replies, leading him through abandoned corridors of the academy. "But be prepared, not all who dwell there will be friendly." The pursuit by Agent Vale and her reinforcements continues to grow closer, their footsteps echoing through the cityscape like a relentless drumbeat. The protagonist and Area press on, knowing they cannot afford to lose the reactor to them. They reach the hidden entrance to the academy, a forgotten corner of the cityscape obscured by rubble and debris. Area's eyes widen as she studies the ancient symbols etched into the entrance. "This is it," she murmurs, her voice barely audible. "The academy that holds the key to controlling your mutations." The protagonist looks at her, a sense of hope stirring within him. "What do we have to do?" Area hesitates, then gestures toward the entrance. "We must enter and find the hidden chamber, the source of the power that controls your mutations." Echoes-of-the-Chimeric-Reactor Area and Cal navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, their steps echoing through the abandoned halls as they sought refuge from Agent Vale's relentless pursuit. The weight of her past weighed heavily on Area's shoulders, every turn bringing back memories of experiments and sacrifices she had made in the name of progress. "We must find a way to control these mutations," she muttered to Cal. "The crystals seem to amplify our abilities, but at what cost?" Cal nodded grimly, his own eyes reflecting a similar determination. "I've heard whispers of a hidden chamber deep within the academy." It may hold the answers we seek. As they moved deeper into the complex, Daria felt an increasing sense of unease. Her senses heightened by the pulsating crystal she carried. She could hear distant growls and the sound of battle echoing through the corridors. A sudden burst of movement caught their eyes, a mutated student charging towards them, teeth bared in a feral snarl. "We must move quickly," Cal warned as they ran down a nearby alleyway, the mutant hot on their heels. Daria's heart raced as she remembered the first time she had encountered these creatures, how helpless and scared she had been back when she was just another test subject in the hands of her captors. In the distance, they could hear the sound of more fighting. Elias and Zara were engaged in a fierce battle against Agent Vale's reinforcements. The crystal amplified both their powers, making them more powerful than ever before. But with every fight, they risked losing themselves to their new bestial natures. Daria gritted her teeth as she confronted the mutated student, her thoughts swirling with memories of the past and fears for the future. She could feel the crystal's power coursing through her veins, giving her the strength to hold her own against the beast. But what would happen if they lost control? As the battle raged on, the protagonist found himself in another part of the academy, searching for a way out with Agent Vale and her team hot on his heels. He could feel the reactor's power coursing through him, a constant reminder of the burden he carried. The crystal embedded in the ground pulsated softly beneath his feet, its light illuminating the dimly lit corridor before him. In the distance, he heard the sound of a blast followed by the screams of mutants. He knew it was Elias and Zara, fighting for their lives against Agent Vale's reinforcements. The protagonist clenched his fist, determined to reach them and turn the tide of battle in their favor. But as he moved deeper into the academy, he realized that they were not alone. Mutated students turned predators lurked around every corner, their eyes glowing with a hunger for power. The protagonist could feel the weight of his new bestial nature bearing down on him, threatening to consume him whole. He stopped, taking a deep breath as he fought to regain control. He had come so far, faced so many challenges, and he refused to let this be the end. With renewed determination, he pressed forward, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. In a hidden chamber deep within the academy, Daria and Cal found what they were looking for, an ancient artifact that held the key to controlling their mutations. As they studied it, they could feel its power coursing through them, giving them a glimpse of what lay beyond their current state. But as they stood there, contemplating the secrets hidden within the artifact, they heard the sound of footsteps echoing through the corridor. Agent Vale and her reinforcements were closing in, determined to take control of the reactor's power for themselves. Daria clenched her fists as she prepared to face them once more. She knew what was at stake, not just their lives, but the fate of humanity itself. With Cole by her side, she steeled herself for the battle ahead, ready to protect the reactor and the power it held. As the two groups faced off, a tense silence descended upon the chamber. The air crackled with tension as they stared each other down, ready to fight for what they believed in. But little did they know, their actions would have far-reaching consequences that would forever alter the course of their lives and the world around them. The group navigates the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, their footsteps echoing hollowly in the dimly lit passages. The weight of the reactor presses heavily against the protagonist's back as they move deeper into the forgotten cityscape. "We need to find Elias and Zara," Kel says, his voice barely audible over the sound of their footsteps. "They are our only hope for understanding the crystals." Daria nods, her eyes fixed on the flickering torchlight that illuminated their path. The reactor's power courses through her veins, granting her immense strength and speed, but also driving her closer to the brink of madness with each passing moment. "We must be careful," she warns, her voice tinged with urgency. Agent Vale could be anywhere. As they turn a corner, the group comes face to face with an unexpected obstacle, a battle between mutated students turned predators. The air is thick with tension as the protagonist and Carl prepare themselves for combat. Daria takes a deep breath, her eyes narrowing as she assesses their opponents. "We cannot afford to engage," she says, her voice low and firm. We need to find Elias and Zara. The group carefully moves past the fight, their hearts racing with adrenaline as they continue deeper into the academy. As they round another corner, a blast reverberates through the halls, followed by the sound of scuffling and shouting. The group moves cautiously towards the source, weapons at the ready. When they reach the open doorway leading to a hidden chamber, they find Agent Vale and her reinforcements locked in battle against Elias and Zara. The air is thick with tension as the two groups size each other up, both knowing that the outcome of this fight will have far-reaching consequences. Protagonist, Agent Vale calls out, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and determination. "I've been looking for you." The protagonist steps forward, his gaze locked onto Agent Vale. He clutches the reactor tightly, feeling its power surging through him as he prepares for battle. "You won't find what you're looking for here," he growls, his voice low and menacing. The two groups engage in a fierce fight, their weapons clashing together as they struggle for control of the hidden chamber. As the battle rages on, the protagonist feels a strange sensation coursing through him, a connection to something beyond himself. He glances at Daria and Cal, feeling a sudden surge of clarity in his mind. "We must work together," he says, his voice filled with determination. "If we can overcome Agent Vale, we may unlock the secrets of this academy." Daria nods, her eyes flashing with resolve as she joins the battle. Cal stays at the back, watching carefully as the group fights against Agent Vale and her reinforcements. As they work together, the protagonist begins to feel a strange sense of purpose, knowing that this fight is only the beginning of their journey to uncover the truth about themselves and the reactor. The battle rages on, with neither side showing signs of weakness as they continue to clash in the hidden chamber deep within the academy. The air grows thick with magic, energy crackling around them as the two sides fight for control of the crystal. As the protagonist and Daria work together, they begin to feel a strange connection to each other, a bond that transcends friendship and loyalty. They exchange glances, feeling a sudden surge of understanding pass between them. "We need to retreat," Daria says, her voice barely audible over the sound of combat. "If we stay here much longer, Agent Vale will realize our connection to the reactor." The protagonist nods, knowing that she is right. Together, they break free from the fight and retreat back into the labyrinthine corridors of the academy, leaving behind a trail of destruction in their wake. As they move through the forgotten cityscape, the group encounters more mutants, each one more dangerous than the last. They battle against them with renewed determination, knowing that they must survive if they hope to uncover the secrets of the ancient academy and the reactor. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, they stumble upon a makeshift shelter where Elias and Zara are waiting for them. The two mutants exchange tense glances as the group enters, their eyes filled with relief and concern. "Thank goodness you're here," Zara says, her voice filled with emotion. "We were beginning to lose hope." The protagonist nods, feeling a sudden surge of gratitude towards these unlikely allies. As they gather around the fire, the group shares their stories and discusses their plans for the future. "We need to find a way to control the reactor's power," Daria says, her voice filled with determination. "If we can do that, we may be able to prevent our bestial natures from consuming us." Elias nods, his eyes thoughtful as he considers their options. "I believe there is a way," he says, his voice barely audible over the crackling fire. "But it will require us to delve deeper into the Academy's secrets." The group looks at each other, knowing that they have no choice but to follow Elias' lead. As they prepare to move out once more, the protagonist feels a strange sense of peace over him. He glances at Daria and Kel, feeling a sudden surge of gratitude towards these two unlikely allies who have stood by his side throughout this journey. "Let's find answers," he says, his voice filled with determination. "And together, we will uncover the truth about ourselves and the reactor." The group sets out once more, moving deeper into the ancient academy in search of answers. As they walk through the labyrinthine corridors, they can feel the weight of their journey bearing down on them. But they know that they must continue if they hope to survive and uncover the truth about themselves and the reactor. The end of this episode leaves the group with a sense of uncertainty and tension as they prepare to face whatever challenges await them in the depths of the ancient academy, all while being pursued relentlessly by Agent Vale and her shadowy organization. The stakes have never been higher, and the characters must confront their own demons and fears if they hope to survive and find answers. As the episode concludes, a sense of foreboding hangs heavy in the air. The characters are on the brink of discovering secrets that will change their lives forever, but at what cost? The audience is left with a hook as the group ventures deeper into the academy, knowing that they must face Agent Vale and her reinforcements if they hope to uncover the truth about themselves and the reactor. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor as Agent Vale and her team storm through the ruins, their footsteps echoing ominously in the labyrinthine corridors. The protagonist, Daria, and Cal crouched behind a pile of rubble, trying to remain unnoticed as they watched the battle unfold before them. Daria's eyes flickered with determination. "We must find another way out," she whispered urgently. "Victor will stop at nothing to get his hands on that reactor." The protagonist nodded, gripping the reactor tightly in his hand. "I won't let him win," he growled, feeling the power coursing through him. He could sense the beast within, eager for a fight. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the area, sending debris flying everywhere. Daria and Kel were knocked to the ground as the protagonist shielded them with his body. When the dust settled, they saw that Agent Vale had been thrown back by the force of the blast. Her team scattered and disoriented. Taking advantage of the chaos, the protagonist leaped into action, charging towards Agent Vale with a fierce growl. Daria and Kel followed closely behind, each wielding strange artifacts they had found within the academy. The battle was fierce, with both sides fighting tooth and nail for control of the reactor. The protagonist felt his bestial nature taking over, fueled by the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He could sense Agent Vale's power, but knew that he had an advantage, the connection they shared. As the fight reached its climax, Daria and Cal managed to disarm Agent Vale's team, but the protagonist found himself face to face with his former friend. "What have you become?" Agent Vale asked, her voice filled with sadness and anger. The protagonist hesitated for a moment, torn between their humanity and the beast within. He knew that he could end this now, but at what cost? Just then, Elias and Zara burst into the chamber, joining the fight on the protagonist's side. Together, they managed to subdue Agent Vale and her team, leaving them unconscious and tied up in the hidden chamber deep within the academy. As they caught their breath, the protagonist turned to Daria and Kel. "We need to leave," he said firmly. "Victor won't stop coming after us." Daria nodded, her expression grave. "I know," she replied softly. "But we can't ignore the fact that this academy holds secrets that could help us control our mutations and understand the reactor." The protagonist hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. "We'll keep moving forward," he said, determination shining in his eyes. "But we must be careful. We don't know what other dangers lurk within these walls." As they left the hidden chamber, the protagonist felt a strange sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them from the shadows, waiting for its moment to strike. But he pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the task at hand, uncovering the secrets of the academy and controlling the reactor before it was too late. Episode end, cliffhanger. As they moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the protagonist felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was following them, waiting for its moment to strike. In the aftermath of the battle, Daria helps the protagonist recover from the shockwave caused by the explosion, her eyes reflecting a mixture of concern and determination. "We need to move quickly," she says, urgently scanning their surroundings. "There are more of them out there. I can handle it." The protagonist grunts, struggling to stand. He glances at Cal, who offers a reassuring nod. The group moves cautiously through the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, each step echoing ominously in the silence. As they advance deeper into the complex, the protagonist feels his senses heightening, sensing strange energies pulsating from the walls. What are these crystals? he asks, pointing at a pulsating crystal embedded in the ground ahead. Daria hesitates before speaking. They were used by this academy to accelerate mutations, she replies, her voice barely above a whisper. But I have never seen them active like this. Cal steps forward, examining one of the crystals closely. It seems they respond to some sort of stimulus, possibly emotional or mental energy, he says, a hint of excitement in his voice. Perhaps we can manipulate these energies to control our transformations. The group continues their journey, moving deeper into the academy's heart, but they are not alone. As they turn a corner, they find themselves face to face with a mutated student, its eyes glowing ominously in the darkness. The creature lunges at them, revealing sharp fangs and claws. The protagonist reacts instinctively, using his enhanced reflexes to dodge the attack. Split up, he commands, springing into action as Kale and Daria move to engage the mutated student from either side. The battle is fierce, but their combined efforts subdue the creature. As they catch their breath, another group of mutated students appears, drawn by the commotion. The protagonist can sense a powerful presence among them, a being who seems to command the others with ease. With no time to waste, they prepare for another battle, but this one feels different. They sense a familiar energy emanating from their foe, Agent Vale's aura. The fight is brutal, with both sides using every trick at their disposal. The protagonist can feel the strain of maintaining his human form, but he refuses to give in. In the end, they manage to subdue Agent Vale and her team, but not without cost. Cal takes a hit, collapsing to the ground, unconscious. Daria rushes to his side, tending to his wounds while the protagonist keeps watch over their captives. As he looks into Agent Vale's eyes, he can see the fire of determination burning within her. "You won this time," she whispers, a hint of admiration in her voice. "But I will not stop until I have that reactor." The protagonist grits his teeth, sensing the weight of their shared history bearing down on him. He knows he cannot trust Agent Vale, but he cannot shake off the feeling that she is connected to his fate in ways he does not yet understand. With Cal's life hanging in the balance, they decide to take their prisoners and move deeper into the academy, seeking answers about the crystals and the true nature of the reactor. As they delve further into the hidden depths of the ancient academy, they begin to uncover more secrets that challenge everything they thought they knew about the Chimeric Reactor and their transformations. But with Agent Vale's reinforcements closing in, time is running out for the protagonist and his allies. They must navigate the treacherous corridors of the academy, facing dangerous mutated students turned predators at every turn, while uncovering the truth about their own transformations and the reactor's true purpose. Echoes of the Chimeric Reactor in the dimly lit corridor, the group cautiously moved forward, Agent Vale's ominous presence still echoing in their minds. The air was thick with tension as they approached an open doorway leading to a hidden chamber. "I feel it, Cal," Daria murmured, her gaze fixed on one of the pulsating crystals embedded in the wall. "The power here is immense. And the connection between these crystals and our mutations, it's undeniable." Cal nodded, his eyes flicking back and forth between the crystal and Agent Vale's potential hiding spots. "I agree. Let's proceed with caution. We must uncover the secrets of this academy if we are to survive the coming storm." As they stepped into the hidden chamber, a faint hum resonated through the air, sending shivers down their spines. Inside, they found a makeshift shelter filled with strange artifacts and alien technology. In the center stood another pulsating crystal. Cal approached it tentatively, reaching out to touch its surface. As his fingers brushed against the cool stone, he felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through him. His senses heightened, and he could feel the power of the reactor surging within him like never before. Daria gasped, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. "Cal, what's happening?" "I know," Cal replied, his voice barely audible. "But I feel stronger, more connected to the reactor than ever before." As they stood there, taking in the sight of Cal's newfound power, a loud crash echoed through the academy. The group tensed, knowing that Agent Vale and her reinforcements were growing closer. "We need to move," Daria said urgently, glancing around the chamber. There's no telling where they might be hiding. They quickly made their way back through the labyrinthine corridors, dodging mutated students turned predators and rushing past hidden passages and abandoned corridors. The air was thick with the scent of fear, the echoes of their own footsteps the only sound that broke the silence. As they neared a nearby alleyway, a blast shook the ground beneath them. Agent Vale and her reinforcements had been found. The group ducked into a dimly lit corridor, waiting for the dust to settle before continuing their escape. They made it to the rubble-filled intersection, pausing briefly to catch their breaths. "We can't stay here for long," Daria said, her voice barely audible over the sound of Agent Vale's approaching team. "We need to find another way out." Kel nodded, his eyes scanning the rubble for a hidden entrance or passage. As they moved cautiously through the ruins, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy echoed with the sound of footsteps and the distant cries of mutated students turned predators. The group, led by Daria and Cull, knew they were running out of time. As they rounded a corner, they found themselves face to face with Agent Vale and her reinforcements. A tense silence fell as both sides took in the sight before them. "It seems we meet again," Agent Vale said coldly, her eyes never leaving Daria. Daria's eyes narrowed, her hand hovering protectively over the reactor strapped to the protagonist's chest. "We will not give up our prize so easily." Agent Vale smirked, drawing a weapon from her side. "I've been waiting for this moment." Kel stepped forward, his gaze locked onto Agent Vale. "You don't stand a chance against all of us." As the two sides prepared to engage, the group could hear the distant growls and snarls of mutated students in pursuit. They knew they had little time before reinforcements arrived on both sides. The fight began with a flurry of blows, Agent Vale's team attacking with reckless abandon while the protagonist, Daria Cull, others held their ground. The group fought with every ounce of strength they had, but Agent Vale proved to be a formidable opponent. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Victor observed the fight through his telescopic visor, watching as the battle raged on. He waited patiently, biding his time for the perfect moment to strike. As the fight dragged on, Cal began to feel a strange sensation coursing through his body. The crystal he had touched earlier seemed to be reacting to Agent Vale's presence, pulsating faster and faster. He felt an overwhelming urge to transform, to become something more powerful than anything else in the academy. Suddenly, Cal lunged at Agent Vale, catching her off guard. The rest of the group seized the opportunity to push back against her reinforcements. In the chaos, Daria managed to slip away with the reactor, disappearing into a nearby alleyway. Agent Vale snarled, her eyes glowing ominously as she surveyed the battlefield. "You will not get away from me this time." As the group retreated deeper into the academy, Cal's transformation continued to grow stronger, his body contorted and elongated, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. He could feel himself becoming something new, something powerful. The group reached a makeshift shelter in the heart of the academy, their hearts pounding as they caught their breath. Cal stared at his reflection in a nearby puddle, amazed and horrified by what he saw. I've changed," he stammered, his voice barely recognizable. "Something inside me, it's taken control." Daria approached him cautiously, studying his new form. "It seems the crystal has awakened something within you." Cal looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. "I don't know if I can control this, what I am now." Yes. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor in the depths of a dimly lit corridor within the ancient cityscape. Daria, the protagonist, and Cal found themselves cornered by Agent Vale and her reinforcements. The pulsating crystal they had discovered earlier emitted a soft glow from the ground, casting eerie shadows upon their faces. "You won't escape this time," Agent Vale growled, advancing towards them with cold determination. Her eyes gleamed dangerously as she took in the reactor strapped to Kel's chest. "Give me the reactor, and I'll spare your lives." Daria stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension surrounding them. "I'm afraid that's impossible," she replied, her gaze never leaving Agent Vale. "The reactor is a part of Kel now, not something to be taken like a prize." Agent Vale scoffed, reaching for her sidearm. Fine, then I'll take you all by force. As the battle raged on, Diarrhea and the protagonist fought alongside Cal, struggling to maintain control over his new form. Each blow they exchanged seemed to amplify the reactor's energy within him, causing his mutation to accelerate at an alarming rate. In the chaos of the fight, something extraordinary happened. Cal's transformation reached its zenith. A brilliant light enveloped him as he roared in pain and ecstasy, his form elongating and contorting into a monstrous creature unlike anything they had ever seen before. The reactor pulsated wildly within his chest, releasing an energy wave that sent Agent Vale's reinforcements tumbling to the ground. In that moment, it was clear. Cal was no longer just a fellow mutant. He had become something more, something powerful, terrifying, and unpredictable. As they stood there, staring in awe at the creature before them, Diarrhea realized that their journey was far from over. In the aftermath of the battle, the protagonist approached Cal cautiously, reaching out to touch his arm. "Are you all right?" they asked, concern etched on their face. Cal looked down at them, his eyes still glowing with power. A low growl escaped his lips as he struggled to regain control over his new form. "I think so," he replied, his voice barely recognizable. "But this wasn't supposed to happen. The reactor. It's changing me." Diarrhea looked at him, worry creeping into her expression. "We'll find a way to control it," she promised, reaching out to offer comfort. "We have to. For all of us." With their new ally now more powerful and dangerous than ever, the group knew that they would need to be cautious as they continued on their journey. The stakes had been raised, and with Agent Vale still hot on their trail, there was no time for rest. They would have to move quickly if they hoped to uncover the secrets of the Chimeric Reactor before it consumed Cal entirely. As they fled into a nearby alleyway, Diarrhea couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. She knew that their encounter with Cal had changed everything, not just for him, but for all of them. The path ahead was uncertain, and the dangers lurking in the shadows were more numerous than ever. But she also knew that they had no choice. They would press on, driven by a shared determination to survive and uncover the truth about the reactor and their own transformations. The cityscape was desolate and filled with rubble. The group followed Diarrhea's lead as she navigated through hidden passages and abandoned corridors, avoiding the mutants that had taken up residence within the ruins. The air was thick with tension, each footstep echoing ominously off the stone walls. "We must hurry," said Cole, his eyes flickering with a strange light. "Agent Vale will be close behind us." Diarrhea nodded, leading them deeper into the cityscape. As they moved, Cal's powers seemed to grow stronger. Pulsating crystals began to form around him, emitting an eerie glow that lit their path. "What are you doing?" asked the protagonist, gripping onto Diarrhea's arm. "This is dangerous." Diarrhea's lips pressed into a tight line as she continued forward. "We have no choice. We need to find answers and control these powers before it's too late." As they entered an alleyway, the group came across a dimly lit corridor. Diarrhea hesitated for a moment before leading them down it. The air grew colder as they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine complex. "I sense something," Cal murmured, his gaze fixed on the wall ahead. An ancient academy hidden within these ruins. The group followed him through an open doorway leading to a hidden chamber. Inside, they found a makeshift shelter filled with strange artifacts and alien technology. Among them was a crystal embedded in the ground, pulsating softly. Diarrhea approached it cautiously, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. "This is it," she whispered, "the reactor's origin. This is what we've been searching for." As they examined the crystal, Agent Vale and her reinforcements burst into the chamber. The battle that followed was fierce, but the group managed to hold their ground thanks to Cal's unpredictable powers. In the end, they emerged victorious, with Agent Vale retreating once more. "We must leave," Diarrhea said urgently, glancing at the pulsating crystal. "This place is too dangerous." As they made their way back through the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, the group couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being watched. They encountered more mutants along the way, battling against them to protect themselves and the reactor. Finally, they found themselves at a ruined intersection, with Agent Vale and her reinforcements approaching from the distance. Daria led them into an alleyway, where they took shelter in a makeshift shelter hidden within the heart of the academy. "We can't stay here for long," Cal said softly, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "Agent Vale will find us eventually." Daria nodded, her eyes reflecting determination. "We'll keep moving until we have control over these powers. And then, we'll take back what is rightfully ours." As they rested, the group discussed their next move. Daria explained that the reactor was not just a weapon, but a key to understanding their own transformations and the fate of humanity. The protagonist couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the story than they knew. "We can't ignore this any longer," said Cal, his eyes burning with intensity. "We must find the truth and take control." Daria agreed, and the group prepared themselves for the challenges that lay ahead. The air grew heavier as they left their makeshift shelter, stepping back into the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy. They knew that Agent Vale would be waiting for them, but they were determined to uncover the secrets hidden within these ruins. Echoes of the Chimeric Reactor, in the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, the group moved cautiously through the dimly lit passageways, their senses heightened by the growing tension in the air. The reactor pulsed rhythmically against Daria's chest as she led them deeper into the forgotten halls. As they rounded a corner, the sound of distant footsteps echoed through the crumbling walls, and Agent Vale stepped out from a nearby alleyway, her eyes locked onto their group with an unwavering glare. "Daria," she called out, her voice cold and calculated, "your time has run out. I have something you want, but it comes at a price," Daria replied, her voice steady as she faced the relentless pursuer. Cal stepped protectively in front of her, his eyes flashing with anger at the sight of Agent Vale. "Back off, or I'll make you regret this," Agent Vale sneered, gesturing behind her. "I have reinforcements," she said, and a group of heavily armed men emerged from the shadows, their weapons trained on Daria's group. The tension in the air grew palpable as both sides braced for battle. Suddenly, a blast rocked the corridor, knocking Agent Vale to the ground, her reinforcements scattered and disoriented. The group exchanged worried glances before turning their attention to the hidden passage that led to the source of the explosion. They entered a chamber filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals, their energy shimmering in the dim light. At the center was an ancient artifact, a crystal embedded in the ground, pulsating with an eerie glow. Daria approached the crystal, her eyes wide with recognition. "This is it," she whispered, "the key to controlling the reactor." Meanwhile, Agent Vale regained her footing and quickly gathered her reinforcements, preparing for another assault on Daria's group. As they moved through the academy, they encountered more mutants who had been transformed by the academy's hidden curriculum, their bodies twisted into terrifying predators. The battle raged throughout the academy, with Agent Vale and her team pursuing Daria's group relentlessly. But as the group neared the hidden chamber, they found themselves face to face with Elias and Zara, two of the academy's students who had been turned into powerful beasts. The battle against Agent Vale and her reinforcements rages on within the ancient academy, each side fighting tooth and nail for control of the reactor strapped to Kel's chest. The air is thick with tension as Daria struggles to decipher the secrets hidden within the pulsating crystal she discovered in a nearby alleyway. "We must find a way to neutralize this thing," Daria shouts over the chaos, her eyes fixed on the glowing crystal in her hand. "It's too dangerous for anyone to wield," Cal growls in frustration, his mutated form clashing violently with Agent Vale and her team. His strength is immense, but the reactor strapped to his chest pulses dangerously with each impact. Suddenly, a deafening blast echoes through the academy corridors, followed by a moment of silence. Daria's eyes widen as she turns to find Elias standing amidst the rubble, a fierce expression upon his face. Zara stands beside him, her sword dripping with blood. "We've been observing you for some time," Elias growls, his voice echoing off the stone walls, "and it seems we have a common enemy in Agent Vale." The group exchanges hesitant glances before turning their focus back to the battle at hand. Together, they push forward, determined to protect the reactor and uncover the secrets of its power. As they navigate through the Academy's hidden passages and abandoned corridors, they encounter more mutated students turned predators. The battles are brutal, but the group fights on, driven by a shared desire for survival and answers. Finally, they reach a hidden chamber deep within the Academy, its walls adorned with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. Aria's eyes widen as she takes in the sight before her. This is it, she breathes, her voice filled with awe. The group cautiously enters the chamber, their hearts pounding in anticipation. As they delve deeper into the mysteries of the Academy and the reactor's true purpose, they realize that their journey has only just begun. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and they must make a choice: remain human or embrace their destiny as instruments of unimaginable power. The pursuit by Agent Vale and her reinforcements continues, but with each passing moment, Aria's group grows stronger. Together, they will face whatever trials come their way, ready to confront the unknown and unlock the secrets hidden within the Chimeric Reactor. Echoes of the Chimeric Reactor, the air in the hidden chamber crackled with energy, as pulsating crystals emitted an eerie glow. Aria and her group huddled together, trying to catch their breath after the intense battle against mutated students and Agent Vale's reinforcements. Kale, still recovering from his injuries, leaned on Elias for support. Zara stood guard, eyes scanning the chamber warily. "We need to move," Aria said urgently. "The Academy is not safe anymore." "What do we do now?" Eli asked, rubbing his bruised knuckles. Aria examined the strange artifacts surrounding them. "There's more to these crystals than I initially thought. They might hold the key to controlling the reactor and preventing further mutations." Zara's eyes narrowed. "If we can control the reactor, we can save ourselves and humanity." Cal nodded, his face a mask of determination. "We'll need to be careful. Agent Vale will not give up so easily." As they prepared to leave the chamber, a low growl echoed through the labyrinthine corridors. Aria quickly motioned for her group to stay hidden as a mutated student stalked into view, its eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger. The creature lunged at them, but Zara sprang into action, taking it down with a swift strike to the head. "That was too close," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "We must find a way out of here." The group continued on, encountering more mutated students turned predators in their path. As they fought their way through the Academy, they discovered hidden passages and abandoned corridors that led them deeper into its heart. Aria's group eventually found a makeshift shelter where they could rest for the night. In his dreams, the protagonist was haunted by memories of Agent Vale and her relentless pursuit. He woke with a start, feeling the weight of the reactor strapped to his chest. Aria's group exchanged worried glances as they realized the danger was far from over. "We can't stay here for long," Kel said. "Agent Vale will find us eventually." Aria nodded. "We need to find a way out and continue our search for answers. The fate of humanity rests on our shoulders, and we cannot afford any delays." The group set off once more, their resolve unwavering. As they ventured further into the Academy's labyrinthine corridors, they found themselves in an alleyway, where a dimly lit corridor led to a hidden chamber. Inside, they discovered an array of strange artifacts and pulsating crystals that seemed to pulse with an ancient power. "This is it," Aria whispered, her voice filled with awe. "The source of the reactor's power." Zara stepped forward, her eyes glinting with determination. "We can save ourselves and humanity by learning how to control this power." Meanwhile, Elias struggles to control his newfound powers, while Zara remains focused and determined to survive the Academy's trials. Victor, ever cunning, seeks to use this chaos for his own gain. In another part of the city, the protagonist and Cal uncover more clues about the reactor's origins, revealing an ancient civilization that may hold the key to controlling the mutations plaguing both of them. As they delve deeper into the mysteries surrounding their transformations, a new threat emerges in the form of mutated students turned predators who will stop at nothing to claim the power within the Academy walls. The group must navigate through hidden chambers filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals, while also dealing with Agent Vale's relentless pursuit and the ever-present danger posed by the mutated students. Will they find the answers they seek? Or will their journey end at the hands of those who wish to control them and the power of the reactor? The stage is set for a battle that will determine not only the fate of humanity, but also the very nature of what it means to be human in this ever-changing world. Area, the protagonist, and Cull crouched behind the makeshift shelter, listening intently as Agent Vale's voice echoed through the dimly lit corridor. The pulsating crystal embedded in the ground hummed ominously beneath their feet, casting an eerie glow on the walls around them. "I will not let you take this reactor," Agent Vale called out, her voice filled with a cold determination that sent shivers down Aria's spine. "Hand it over now, and perhaps I can show you mercy." "No chance," Aria replied sternly, clenching her fists as she stood up, ready to confront Agent Vale head-on. "This reactor was never yours to begin with." The air crackled with tension as the two sides faced each other, weapons at the ready. Cull, still recovering from their own transformation, watched from the shelter, unsure if they could contribute much to the fight. The mutated students-turned-predators had already proven themselves formidable opponents, and Agent Vale's reinforcements were an unknown variable. Suddenly, a blast reverberated through the labyrinthine corridors, followed by the sound of fighting in the distance. Aria exchanged a worried glance with the protagonist before turning back to face Agent Vale, who smirked beneath her helmet. "It seems our mutual enemies have arrived," she said. "Let us make an example of them." As the battle between mutated students-turned-predators and Agent Vale's team erupted in the nearby alleyway, Aria's group knew they had to act quickly. They slipped out of their hiding spot and made a run for it, heading deeper into the academy in search of answers and a way to stop this conflict once and for all. The labyrinthine corridors twisted and turned, leading them through hidden chambers filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals that seemed to pulse with an almost malevolent energy. Every step they took felt like a gamble, but they had no choice if they wanted to uncover the secrets of the reactor and their own transformations. Along the way, they encountered more mutants who had been affected by the same alien technology that now coursed through Aria's veins. Some welcomed them as kindred spirits, while others saw them as a threat and attacked on sight. It was clear that the academy was a place of danger and uncertainty, but also a potential treasure trove of knowledge about their shared fate. As they ventured deeper into the ancient academy, Aria couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The more she learned about the reactor and its origins, the more she realized that their transformations were just the beginning. There was something far more sinister at work here, something that could change the course of humanity forever. The group continued on, moving through abandoned corridors and hidden passages, searching for answers amidst the ruins. With Agent Vale's relentless pursuit growing ever closer, they knew time was running out. They had to find a way to control their mutations, to understand the true purpose of the reactor, and to stop this cosmic war before it consumed them all. But as they delved deeper into the mysteries surrounding the chimeric reactor, Aria couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the Academy was not just a forgotten relic of a long-lost civilization, but something far more active and dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The air grew thick with tension as the group entered a hidden chamber filled with ancient artifacts and pulsating crystals. The crystal embedded in Aria's chest seemed to pulse in response to their presence, sending waves of energy through her body that made her skin tingle. She could feel the power within the reactor surging, threatening to overwhelm her and tear apart the fragile balance between her humanity and her mutation. As they stood there, surrounded by the remnants of an ancient civilization, Aria knew that their journey was far from over. The secrets of the Chimeric-Reactor were still hidden deep within this labyrinthine academy, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to delve into the unknown. And as they stood there, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Aria couldn't help but wonder if they would survive long enough to learn the truth about their own transformation and the true purpose of the reactor. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and only time would tell if they could rise to the challenge and save themselves from an uncertain future. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor, the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy echoed with the sound of heavy footsteps. A group of mutants, led by Elias and Zara, scurried through the darkened passages, evading detection from Agent Vale and her reinforcements. Their eyes glowed eerily in the dim light, a testament to their newfound powers. In a hidden chamber deep within the academy, Daria stood before an intricate diagram on the wall, tracing symbols with her fingers. The protagonist leaned against a nearby wall, his reactor strapped to his chest, glowing faintly in the gloom. Kel, his own reactor pulsating ominously at his side, watched over him. "I've found something," Daria said, her eyes meeting those of the others. This academy was once a school for students who learned to transform themselves into powerful beasts to survive an apocalypse. The protagonist frowned. "So we're not alone in this evolution process." Daria shook her head. "No, but it seems they were more than just mutants. These symbols suggest that they willingly embraced their new forms, becoming the predators of a post-apocalyptic world. And we're following in their footsteps," Cal said grimly. Suddenly, a distant explosion echoed through the corridors, followed by the sound of heavy footfalls growing louder. Agent Vale and her reinforcements had found them. "We have to move," Daria hissed, grabbing their makeshift weapons and leading them into the darkness. They sprinted down the corridor, dodging through rubble and hidden passages, barely avoiding detection as they made their way deeper into the academy. The sound of pursuit grew louder, the echoes of their footsteps echoing eerily around them. As they rounded a corner, they found themselves face to face with a group of mutated students turned predators. Their eyes glowed with malice and hunger as they circled the group, bearing sharp teeth and claws. The protagonist tensed, feeling the power of his reactor surge within him. He knew he could not hold back if he wanted to survive this encounter. Suddenly, a blast rocketed through the corridor, knocking the mutated students aside and sending shards of debris flying everywhere. Agent Vale and her reinforcements had found them at last. The battle was fierce, each side fighting with everything they had. The protagonist struggled to hold on to his humanity as he fought against the urge to let loose the beast within. Daria and Cal fought alongside him, their own transformations threatening to overtake them as well. But in the end, it was Elias and Zara who turned the tide of battle. Using their newfound powers, they managed to hold off Agent Vale's team long enough for the group to escape. As they fled deeper into the academy, the protagonist couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. He knew that this was only the beginning, and that the true test of their humanity would come when they faced the choice between remaining human or embracing their destiny as a weapon of unimaginable power. The group moved cautiously through the labyrinthine corridors, pulsating crystals casting an eerie glow on the ancient walls. The air was thick with tension, every step echoed in the empty hallways. Ahead, they could hear the distant growls of mutated students turned predators, their senses heightened by the reactor's energy coursing through the protagonist and Cal. As they reached a dimly lit corridor, Agent Vale and her reinforcements appeared around the corner, their weapons at the ready. A battle ensued, the group fighting for survival as the mutants closed in from behind. Elias, once a scholar, now faced his former peers transformed into monstrous beasts. "This doesn't have to end like this," Agent Vale called out over the chaos. "You are one of us, protagonist. Join me and together we can bring order to this world." The protagonist hesitated, torn between his loyalty to Daria's group and the allure of power offered by Agent Vale. As they fought for control over the reactor strapped to his chest, Cal stepped in front of him protectively, shielding the device from the enemy's grasp. The battle raged on, but eventually Daria's group managed to break free and retreat into a nearby alleyway. The pursuit continued as Agent Vale and her reinforcements followed close behind. As they ran, Daria turned to the protagonist. "We must find shelter," she said urgently. "The reactor is unstable, and we can't keep running forever." They found refuge in an abandoned laboratory on the outskirts of the city, a makeshift shelter hidden among the ruins. As they caught their breath, Cal spoke up. "We need to find a way to control this power," he said, looking at the reactor strapped to his chest. "It's too dangerous for us and those around us." With renewed determination, Diaria began to search through the lab, seeking answers in the ancient artifacts and pulsating crystals scattered throughout the room. The group knew that time was running out, and with Agent Vale ever closer, they had to make a decision: embrace their destiny or find a way to control the reactor before it destroyed them all. The tension within the shelter grew as the protagonist wrestled with his own feelings about the device strapped to his chest. He could feel its power coursing through him, and he knew that it was only a matter of time before it consumed him entirely. As they searched for answers in the lab, the group realized that the key to controlling the reactor lay within the ancient civilization that had created it. Diaria's eyes widened as she uncovered a hidden chamber deep within the academy, filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. The room seemed to hum with energy, and the group knew they were on the brink of discovering something incredible. As they ventured further into the academy, they found themselves confronted by more mutated students turned predators. The battle against Agent Vale and her reinforcements continued as they fought their way through the hidden chambers and abandoned corridors. The protagonist felt his humanity slipping away with each passing moment, but he refused to give in completely. With Cal's guidance and Diaria's knowledge, they began to uncover clues that could help them control the reactor once and for all. As they fought their way deeper into the academy, the protagonist felt a growing sense of purpose. He knew that he was destined for greatness, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this power than just destruction. With each battle, he grew stronger and more confident, and he began to question Agent Vale's motives. The group found themselves in a hidden chamber deep within the academy, filled with ancient artifacts and pulsating crystals. Diaria studied the objects carefully, her eyes wide with excitement. "This is it," she whispered, holding up an intricate crystal pendant. "I believe this could be the key to controlling the reactor." With renewed hope, they prepared to face Agent Vale and her reinforcements one last time. They knew that their fate hung in the balance, but they also knew that they had a chance to control their destiny. As they stepped out of the hidden chamber, ready to confront Agent Vale, they felt a sense of unity and determination unlike anything they'd ever known before. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, but Diaria's group emerged victorious. Agent Vale lay defeated on the ground, her grip on the reactor slipping away. The protagonist looked down at her, his eyes filled with anger and sadness. "You were once a part of our family," he said coldly, "but you chose power over humanity. We won't let that happen again." As they walked away from the battlefield, the protagonist felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that he had a destiny to fulfill, but he also knew that it didn't have to be one of destruction. With Diaria and Cal by his side, he felt ready to embrace his power and forge a new future for humanity. As the group made their way through the ruins of the ancient cityscape, they couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism. They had faced unimaginable danger and come out the other side stronger than ever before. With the reactor under control and Agent Vale defeated, they knew that they could face whatever challenges lay ahead together. As they reached the edge of the city, Diaria turned to the protagonist with a determined look in her eyes. "We've come so far," she said, "but our journey is far from over." The protagonist nodded, his heart filled with determination. He knew that their fate was still uncertain, but he also knew that he wasn't alone. With Diaria, Cal, and the others by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor. As the battle against mutated students turned predators raged on, Diaria's group found themselves cornered in a forgotten corner of the cityscape. The protagonist and Cal held off the fierce beasts while Diaria searched for an escape route. She caught sight of an open doorway leading to a hidden chamber. "We must move now," Diaria shouted over the din of combat, her eyes locked onto the doorway. "Follow me." The protagonist nodded and charged forward, Cal hot on his heels. Agent Vale and her reinforcements appeared, blocking their path. A tense standoff ensued as both parties eyed each other warily. "We're not going to let you leave," Agent Vale growled, gripping the hilt of her sword tightly. "This reactor belongs to us." The protagonist tensed, his body twitching with the power coursing through him from the reactor strapped to his chest. Kale's eyes flashed with determination as he stood protectively in front of Dar Area. Suddenly, a blast echoed through the cityscape, causing Agent Vale and her reinforcements to stumble back. Elias emerged from the shadows, a makeshift weapon clutched in his hands. His eyes were cold and calculating as he surveyed their enemies. "You'll have to go through me first," he snarled, charging at Agent Vale. Zara watched the scene unfold from a nearby alleyway, her body taut with anticipation. She knew that this was only the beginning, and that they would need every advantage if they hoped to survive. In the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, the group found themselves confronted by more mutants. Each encounter tested their resolve as they battled against the unnatural predators. Dr. Area led them deeper into the hidden chambers, searching for answers amidst strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. As they delved further, the protagonist felt a growing sense of unease. He knew that their time was running out, and with Agent Vale's relentless pursuit, it seemed as though every step they took brought them closer to danger. In the hidden chamber deep within the academy, Dar Area uncovered an ancient artifact that pulsed with an eerie glow. She studied it intently, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns etched into its surface. This is incredible," she murmured in awe. "I think we may have found the key to controlling the reactor." The protagonist felt a surge of hope at her words, his heart pounding with anticipation. If they could control the reactor, they might stand a chance against Agent Vale and her organization. As they prepared to leave the hidden chamber, they heard the sound of approaching footsteps. Dr. Aria's eyes widened in fear as she realized that Agent Vale and her reinforcements had found them. "We must get out of here," she whispered urgently. Now, they rushed through the ruins, weaving their way through rubble-filled intersections and hidden passages. The pounding footsteps grew louder as they raced towards them. "Faster," Dar Aria urged, her breath coming in gasps. "We have to lose them." But no matter how fast they ran, Agent Vale's team seemed to be gaining on them. As they reached a makeshift shelter in the heart of the academy, they knew that they would need to fight if they hoped to escape. Together, they stood their ground as Agent Vale and her reinforcements approached. The battle was fierce, but Dr. Aria's group emerged victorious, defeating their enemies and securing control over the reactor. As they caught their breath, the protagonist felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that he had a destiny, but not one of destruction. With determination in his eyes, he looked at Dar Aria and Cal. "We have to find out what this reactor was meant for," he declared. "We can't keep running. We need to face whatever comes next." Dar Aria nodded solemnly. "I agree. But first, we must deal with Victor and his men." Dar Aria examined the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground, her eyes filled with curiosity and determination. "We must find the hidden chamber," she said, pointing at the strange artifact. "It will lead us to the answers we seek." Cal nodded, his grip tightening on the reactor strapped to his chest. "But be careful," he warned. "Agent Vale and her reinforcements are closing in." The protagonist looked around at the labyrinthine corridors, feeling the weight of the reactor pressing against his body. He could sense its power pulsing beneath his skin, a constant reminder of the struggle between humanity and the growing bestial nature within him. "We have no choice," he said gruffly. "We must find that chamber before they do." As they ventured deeper into the academy, they encountered more mutated students turned predators. The battles were fierce, but the group fought with determination, knowing their lives and the fate of humanity depended on it. They pushed through alleyways and dimly lit corridors, always looking for a way forward. Finally, they found themselves at an intersection. In the distance, they could hear Agent Vale's voice echoing through the ruins. The protagonist knew that if they didn't hurry, they would be caught in her trap. He made a decision. "We split up," he said, his eyes scanning the group. "Dar Aria and Kale will go one way, while I take Elias and Zara another." The three pairs set off at a sprint, each knowing their role in this desperate race against time. Daria and Kel ventured into the forgotten corner of the cityscape, searching for hidden passages and abandoned corridors. The protagonist led Elias and Zara deeper into the heart of the academy, towards the makeshift shelter they had discovered earlier. As they ran, Agent Vale's reinforcements closed in. The group fought their way through mutated students turned predators, knowing that Agent Vale herself would not be far behind. They pushed forward, driven by the hope of finding the hidden chamber and learning the truth about the reactor. Inside the makeshift shelter, Daria and Kel found a chamber filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. As they examined them, they realized that the answers they sought lay within these ancient objects, but they knew their time was running out. They hurriedly gathered as many artifacts as they could carry, knowing that the battle against Agent Vale and her reinforcements would begin any minute. Meanwhile, the protagonist, Elias and Zara, found themselves in another hidden chamber, this one filled with even more strange and powerful crystals. They felt a sense of awe and fear as they gazed upon the pulsating lights. Suddenly, the blast that followed rocked the academy, shaking them to their very core. Echoes-of-the-Chimeric-Reactor, in the dimly lit corridor of an abandoned laboratory on the outskirts of the city, Daria, the protagonist, Kel, and their unlikely allies huddled together, their hearts still racing from their latest encounter with Agent Vale and her team. The reactor strapped to the protagonist's chest pulsed rhythmically, a constant reminder of the danger they carried. "We must find a way to control this thing," the protagonist whispered urgently as they caught their breath. And quickly, Daria nodded, her eyes fixed on the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground nearby. "I believe I may have found something that could help us," she said quietly. "What is it?" Kel asked, his gaze flicking between Daria and the crystal. "It's an ancient artifact," Daria explained, reaching out to touch the crystal gently, one of many left behind by the alien civilization that created the reactor. "If we can unlock its secrets, it may hold the key to controlling your mutations." The group exchanged glances, their eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. The thought of harnessing the power within them was both exhilarating and terrifying. But they had no choice. The world hung in the balance. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine complex, they encountered more crystals like the one Daria had found, each pulsating with an eerie glow. The group moved cautiously through the abandoned corridors and hidden passages, their senses on high alert for any signs of danger. They soon came across another hidden chamber, filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past, studied the room carefully, her eyes scanning every corner. "This place is old," she murmured, reaching out to touch one of the crystals. "I've never seen anything like this before." Elias, a former scholar who became a student at the academy, stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground. He was struggling with his newfound powers and the weight of his past, torn between his desire to protect humanity and his growing attraction to the power that coursed through him. Victor, a cunning politician who used his charm and wit to manipulate others, watched the exchange between Zara and Elias from afar, biding his time. He sought power for its own sake and would stop at nothing to get it. Suddenly, they heard the sound of footsteps echoing through the corridor. The group froze, their hearts pounding in their chests as Agent Vale and her reinforcements approached. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, but the group managed to hold their ground, refusing to let the reactor fall into Agent Vale's hands. In the chaos of the fight, they stumbled upon another hidden chamber, this one filled with even more powerful crystals than before. As they fought against Agent Vale and her team, Daria realized that the crystals were somehow linked to the reactor and their mutations. With a swift motion, she snatched one of the larger crystals from the ground and held it tightly in her hand. The crystal pulsed violently as she did so, bathing the room in a brilliant light. The group felt a surge of energy coursing through them, and for a moment, they could sense the power that lay dormant within them. It was intoxicating, exhilarating, but also terrifying. As the battle raged on around them, Daria focused her mind on the crystal, trying to unlock its secrets and harness the power it held. The air crackled with energy as she did so, and the room seemed to shake beneath their feet. Suddenly, a deafening blast echoed through the chamber, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. When the smoke cleared, they found themselves standing alone in the darkened labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, the reactor still strapped to the protagonist's chest, but now glowing with an intense light. Daria looked around at her allies, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "We did it," she whispered. "We've unlocked the key to controlling your mutations." The group, battered but alive, stumbled out of the hidden chamber, disoriented and shaken by the blast. They found themselves in a dimly lit corridor, the reactor pulsating ominously against protagonist's chest. "What happened?" Kyle asked, clutching his side as he struggled to stand. Daria glanced at him, her eyes wide with fear and surprise. "I don't know," she admitted. "That crystal was unlike anything I've ever seen before." Protagonist took a deep breath, fighting back the urge to panic. "We need to keep moving," they said, scanning their surroundings. "Agent Vale might have survivors." Zara nodded, her gaze focused and determined. "Then we fight," she growled. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine complex, they encountered more hidden chambers, each filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. They were met with encounters that tested their resolve. Mutated students turned predators, Agent Vale and her reinforcements, battles against mutants, and fights with unexpected adversaries. Each time, they persevered, driven by a shared goal to control the reactor's power and save humanity from destruction. One such battle led them to a hidden chamber deep within the academy, where they discovered an ancient artifact that pulsed with an eerie glow. Daria studied it intently before her eyes widened in realization. "This is it," she whispered. "The key." "Key to what?" Kale asked, his voice filled with tension. Daria hesitated, glancing at the protagonist. "To controlling your transformations," she said finally. "It's the only way to ensure you don't lose control of the reactor's power." The group stared at each other in silence, understanding the gravity of their situation. They knew they had a decision to make: remain human or embrace their destiny as weapons of unimaginable power. The weight of that choice hung heavy upon them as they continued their journey through the hidden chambers of the ancient academy, the reactor's glow growing brighter with each step. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the sense of danger grew ever more palpable. They knew that Agent Vale and her reinforcements were closing in, the sound of their pursuit echoing through the ruins. But they pressed on, driven by a single purpose: to unlock the key to controlling the reactor's power and save humanity from destruction. Their journey led them to a hidden chamber filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals, where they faced off against Agent Vale and her reinforcements in a fierce battle that tested their resolve. With Daria's guidance, they were able to use the ancient artifact to control their transformations, the reactor's power surging through them as they fought with renewed strength. As the battle raged on, Agent Vale revealed her true intentions. "You are not just a test subject," she sneered. "You are a critical component in a cosmic war between two alien factions." The protagonist stared at her, their mind racing as they tried to comprehend what she said. They knew that Agent Vale was not bluffing. The reactor's power had already brought about mutations and destruction on a massive scale. But they also knew that if they didn't control it, the consequences would be catastrophic for humanity. With a fierce determination, they made their choice. They would embrace their destiny as weapons of unimaginable power to save the world from destruction. They fought on, their transformation growing more powerful with each passing moment, until Agent Vale and her reinforcements were defeated. Exhausted but triumphant, they stood amidst the rubble-filled intersection, the reactor's glow fading as they regained control of their powers. They knew that this was just the beginning of their journey, but they also knew that they had taken the first steps towards controlling the reactor's power and saving humanity from destruction. As they limped away from the battlefield, they looked back at the ruins one last time, a sense of resolution washing over them. They were no longer just humans. They were something more, something greater. and with that newfound power came a responsibility to protect humanity and ensure that their transformation would not lead to its downfall. They had taken control of the reactor's power, but they knew that the true test was yet to come. They would face challenges beyond imagination as they navigated the ever-evolving landscape of mutation and danger, uncovering the secrets of their own transformation and the true purpose of the chimeric reactor. Echoes of the chimeric reactor, the group stood at the edge of a desolate cityscape, gazing upon the labyrinthine complex before them. The ancient academy hidden within the ruins was their next destination, rumored to hold the key to controlling the reactor and halting their mutations. Daria studied the crumbling buildings, her eyes gleaming with determination. "This is where we find our answers," she said, voice barely audible above the wind. "But be prepared for challenges ahead." The protagonist nodded, his fingers clenching around the reactor strapped to his chest. The weight of its power weighed heavily on him, a constant reminder of the burden he carried. Cal, standing beside him, offered a reassuring smile. "We faced worse," he said, gesturing towards the cityscape behind them. As they ventured into the forgotten corner of the city, they found themselves navigating through abandoned corridors and alleyways, their footsteps echoing through the rubble-filled intersection. The air was thick with dust and grime, the scent of decay hanging heavy in the air. Suddenly, a figure lurked in an alleyway up ahead. The protagonist tensed, his hand automatically reaching for the makeshift weapon at his side. Daria signaled them to halt, her gaze fixed on the approaching figure. "It's one of us," she said quietly. Elias emerged from the shadows, face etched with exhaustion and worry. "You came," he breathed, relief washing over him. "I need your help." Zara stepped out from behind Elias, her eyes locked onto the group. She was a fierce warrior, her body marked by countless scars and battle wounds. Victor stood beside her, smirking. "I'm glad to see you've made it this far," he said, his voice dripping with insincerity. The protagonist narrowed his eyes at the cunning politician, remembering their past encounters. "What do you want?" he growled. "Simply put," Victor replied, "power. And I believe you have it." Before they could react, a blast echoed through the alleyway, sending debris flying everywhere. Agent Vale and her reinforcements charged towards them, weapons at the ready. The battle was on. As they fought against Agent Vale's team, the group struggled to hold their ground. They faced mutated students turned predators, their once human features twisted into grotesque shapes by the reactor's power. It seemed no matter how many they defeated, more appeared in their place, relentlessly pursuing them. Daria and Cal fought alongside the protagonist, their skills honed through countless battles against Agent Vale and her organization. They managed to keep the enemy at bay, but their numbers were growing. In the midst of the chaos, Elias and Zara joined the fray, siding with the group in the hope that together they could control the reactor's power and halt their mutations. As they fought, the group began to gain the upper hand, their determination and unity proving stronger than Agent Vale's reinforcements. Finally, with a fierce cry, the protagonist unleashed the full might of the reactor, obliterating Agent Vale and her team in an explosion of energy. Exhausted but victorious, they took a moment to catch their breath, gazing upon the destruction around them. As the dust settled, Daria turned to the protagonist, her eyes filled with admiration and concern. "We have much to discuss," she said, her voice barely audible above the silence that followed. "But first, we must rest." The group retreated to a makeshift shelter within the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, their spirits heavy with the weight of what they had just faced. Little did they know, their greatest challenges still lay ahead. The hidden chambers filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals would test their resolve, revealing secrets about the reactor and its true purpose. In the dimly lit corridor, Daria's gaze flickered between the pulsating crystal embedded in the ground and the makeshift weapons clutched tightly in her hand. Her heart raced as she felt a strained sense of unease. The reactor strapped to Kel's chest hummed softly, sending waves of power coursing through his body. "We must be careful," Daria murmured, her voice barely audible. "The crystals may hold untold power or danger." Kel nodded, his own eyes scanning the surrounding walls adorned with ancient symbols. The protagonist stood silently beside them, the weight of the reactor strapped to their chest heavy on their shoulders. Agent Vale's relentless pursuit loomed in their thoughts. "We have come too far to turn back now," Zara growled, her eyes flashing with determination. "Let us press on and uncover the truth." Elias glanced nervously at the crystal embedded in the ground, his mind reeling with memories of his past as a scholar and student at this very academy. As they moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, he couldn't shake the feeling that the secrets buried within these walls would change everything they knew about themselves and their world. The group navigated through abandoned alleyways and hidden passages, each turn revealing more strange artifacts and alien technology. At last they found themselves standing before an open doorway, leading to a hidden chamber filled with pulsating crystals. "We've reached our destination," Daria announced, her voice echoing off the ancient walls. "But be cautious, these crystals are powerful." As they stepped inside, the protagonist couldn't help but feel a strange connection to these artifacts, as if their very essence resonated with the reactor strapped to their chest. The group gathered around one particular crystal that seemed to pulse with an even stronger energy than the others. Suddenly, the chamber trembled violently, and Agent Vale's voice echoed through the air. "You can run, but you cannot hide." The group turned as the hidden passage behind them burst open, revealing a battalion of mutated students turned predators, ready to attack. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, testing the limits of their combined strength and determination. Despite their best efforts, Elias fell early on, his body battered and broken by the relentless assault. Zara fought bravely, but her feral instincts took hold, transforming her into a terrifying beast that tore through the mutants with ease. Daria, Kel, and the protagonist stood back to back, fending off wave after wave of attackers. The reactor strapped to the protagonist's chest surged with power, its energy coursing through their veins and fueling their attacks. Finally, when all seemed lost, Daria activated a hidden mechanism within the chamber, causing the ceiling to collapse, burying the mutants beneath rubble. "We must move quickly," Daria urged, her voice tinged with urgency. "Agent Vale will not rest until she takes the reactor." The group fled the chamber, leaving behind the fallen and the ruins of their sanctuary. They knew that Agent Vale would be waiting for them, ready to claim what she believed was rightfully hers. But they were not without hope. They still held the reactor's power within them. Echoes-of-the-Chimeric-Reactor. As they navigated through labyrinthine corridors and abandoned alleyways, the group encountered other mutants who had been transformed into predatory creatures by the very artifacts that held the answers they sought. Despite the constant battles against these mutants, the group pressed on in search of a hidden chamber deep within the academy, where they hoped to find more information about the reactor and their own transformations. Meanwhile, Agent Vale and her team were closing in, determined to capture the reactor and the protagonist at any cost. A fierce battle ensued between Daria's group and Agent Vale's reinforcements, pushing the group to their limits as they struggled to maintain control of the reactor and protect its wearer from Agent Vale's grasp. The pursuit continued through hidden passages and abandoned corridors, taking them deeper into the heart of the academy. Along the way, they encountered Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past who sought to survive the academy's trials and become the ultimate beast. Together, the group fought their way through the academy, learning more about themselves, each other, and the true purpose of the reactor. As they neared their destination, the group faced off against both Agent Vale and her team, and the mutated students turned predators that roamed the academy's halls. The battle was fierce, but they managed to push through, finally reaching the hidden chamber deep within the academy. Inside, they found an ancient artifact that pulsed with an eerie glow, revealing itself to be a crystal pendant imbued with the knowledge of the reactor's true purpose and the key to controlling the protagonist's mutations. With this newfound power, they prepared for their final confrontation against Agent Vale and her team. But as they stood in the hidden chamber, ready to face whatever lay ahead, they couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the Academy still held, and how it would ultimately change them and the fate of humanity. The battle was fierce and relentless, as Aria's group fought tooth and nail to protect the reactor and its wearer from Agent Vale and her team. The air was thick with tension and the stench of blood as they pushed through the hidden chambers of the ancient academy, evading mutated students turned predators, while also fending off attacks from Agent Vale's reinforcements. As they fought their way deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the protagonist felt a strange connection to the academy and the artifacts that surrounded them. It was as if their own mutations resonated with these ancient relics, drawing them closer to secrets long forgotten. Finally, they reached the hidden chamber deep within the academy, where an ancient artifact pulsed with an eerie glow. The pendant lay on a pedestal in the center of the room, surrounded by pulsating crystals that seemed to hum softly as they entered. "What is this place?" Elias whispered, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. It's incredible." Aria approached the pendant cautiously, her gaze locked on the glowing crystal. "It's a key," she murmured, reaching out to touch it. "A key to understanding the reactor and controlling its power within you." Zara stepped forward, her muscles tensing as she prepared for another attack. "What do we do now?" Kale looked at the protagonist, his eyes filled with concern. "We've come too far to let them take this from us," he said firmly. "Let's take it and use its power to our advantage." As they stood before the pendant, a sudden rumble echoed through the chamber, causing the crystals to pulsate even faster. The air crackled with energy as the reactor within the protagonist seemed to respond to their presence. Agent Vale and her team burst into the hidden chamber, weapons at the ready. "I've been tracking you for weeks," she snarled, her voice filled with venom. "You won't get away with this." The group exchanged glances, knowing they had little choice but to fight if they wanted to keep the pendant and the reactor safe. As they prepared for battle, the protagonist felt a surge of power coursing through their veins, fueling their resolve to protect what they had fought so hard to obtain. The ensuing conflict was brutal and chaotic, with both sides fighting for control of the pendant and the reactor. Agent Vale proved to be a formidable opponent, her skills honed by years of pursuit and combat against those like the protagonist. But Aria's group refused to back down, using their wits and newfound powers to turn the tide in their favor. In the midst of the battle, the protagonist felt a strange connection to the pendant, as if it were urging them to take control of the reactor's power for themselves. With a surge of willpower, they reached out, seizing hold of the crystal and feeling the energy flow through them like liquid fire. As they did, their mutations intensified, their body transforming in ways they had never before imagined. The reactor seemed to respond to their touch, pulsating with a newfound intensity as it surged with power. Agent Vale and her team were taken aback by the sudden transformation, but it was too late for them to back down now. The fight continued, with both sides pushing each other to the brink of exhaustion. The protagonist felt their strength growing with every passing moment, their newfound power fueling their attacks and granting them abilities they hadn't known they possessed. It was a struggle between the old and the new, as they grappled with their humanity and the bestial nature that now defined them. Finally, as Agent Vale made one last desperate lunge for the pendant, the protagonist felt a surge of power unlike any they had ever experienced before. With a cry of determination, they reached out, grasping Agent Vale by the throat and lifting her off her feet with ease. "Let go," she growled, her voice filled with an authority that left no room for argument. "The pendant is ours." Agent Vale's eyes widened in fear as the protagonist tossed her aside, sending her crashing into a pile of rubble. With the pendant securely in their grasp and the reactor now under their control, they turned to Aria, Carl Elias, and Zara. "What have we done?" Elias asked, his voice shaking with fear and awe. "We've become monsters." Aria stepped forward, her gaze locked on the protagonist. "You are not monsters," she said softly. "You are the future, the last vestige of humanity in a world that seeks to destroy us. Use this power wisely, for it is your destiny to shape the course of history." As they stood there, surrounded by the wreckage of their battle and the hum of pulsating crystals, the protagonist knew that their journey was far from over. They had taken a step closer to understanding themselves and the reactor's true purpose. But many questions remained unanswered. What would become of them now? And what role did they play in the cosmic war between two alien factions? One thing was certain: their lives were forever changed, and the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. The question was whether they could embrace their destiny or cling to the last remnants of their humanity. As they left the hidden chamber, ready to face whatever lay ahead, the protagonist couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They had taken a great risk in seizing control of the reactor's power, and they knew that there would be consequences for their actions. But they also knew that they could not turn back now. The journey was far from over, and the battles ahead would be even more challenging than those they had already faced. But with the pendant in their grasp and the reactor under their control, the protagonist felt a newfound sense of purpose and determination. They would face whatever challenges lay before them, for they were no longer just a human infused with alien technology. They were something else entirely. The end of episode 43. Aria's group emerged from the hidden chamber, their breaths fogging in the cold air of the dimly lit corridor. The pulsating crystals that lined the walls seemed to pulse more rapidly, as if aware of their presence. "We have the pendant," Cal said, clutching it tightly within his grasp. "But I sense that this is far from over." Aria nodded gravely. "Agent Vale will not give up so easily." "We must move quickly." As they made their way through a series of hidden passages and abandoned corridors, the sound of distant gunfire echoed through the ruins. Agent Vale and her reinforcements were close on their heels. "We have to find cover," Aria said, leading them into an alleyway that seemed safe from prying eyes. The group huddled together, leaning against crumbling walls as they caught their breaths. The protagonist stared at the pulsating crystal pendant, feeling the strange energy coursing through them. They could sense a shift within themselves, one that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Suddenly, there was an explosion somewhere nearby, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Aria's group exchanged worried glances before pressing on, making their way deeper into the labyrinthine plex. "We cannot stay here much longer," Kale said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Their reinforcements will find us eventually." Aria nodded again. "I agree. But we must be careful. The academy is filled with unknown dangers." They continued their trek through the forgotten cityscape, moving from one abandoned alley to another, until they found shelter in a hidden chamber nestled within the ruins. The room was small but well hidden, and it provided them with some much-needed respite from the chaos outside. The protagonist looked around the dimly lit chamber, taking in the strange artifacts that surrounded them. A sense of unease washed over them as they gazed upon pulsating crystals that seemed to hum softly. It was as if the very air itself crackled with energy. "What is this place?" the protagonist asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Aria smiled slightly, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "I'm not entirely sure," she said, "but I believe it might hold answers we have been seeking." The group spent the rest of the day exploring the hidden chamber, discovering ancient artifacts and alien technology that seemed to hint at the origins of both the chimeric reactor and their own transformations. As they delved deeper into the mysteries surrounding them, the protagonist felt a strange connection to these objects, one that filled them with a sense of purpose they had never felt before. But as night fell and they made their way back out into the cityscape, they couldn't shake off the feeling that their discovery was only the beginning. And somewhere in the shadows, Agent Vale waited, ever watchful and relentless in her pursuit. As the battle for control of the chimeric reactor raged on, the protagonist knew one thing: they were no longer just a test subject, they had become something far more powerful, and with that power came responsibility. Echoes of the Chimeric-Reactor in a dimly lit corridor, Aria's group found themselves surrounded by mutated students turned predators. The air was thick with tension as the battle for survival began. Kel, once a fellow mutant, an unlikely ally, stood at the front, his eyes glowing ominously in the darkness. We must move quickly, Diaria urged, her voice barely audible above the cacophony of growls and snarls. The protagonist's heart raced as they prepared for battle, their senses heightened by the alien technology pulsating within them. Agent Vale appeared at the far end of the corridor, a sinister smile playing on her lips. "You thought you could hide," she taunted, her eyes never leaving their prey. The protagonist felt a surge of anger coursing through their veins as they braced themselves for battle. The fight was brutal and chaotic, with mutated students attacking from every direction. Diaria's group held their ground, fighting back with makeshift weapons created using the alien technology found in the hidden chamber. The protagonist felt a strange connection to these weapons, as if they were an extension of their own body. As the battle raged on, a sudden explosion rocked the corridor, causing Diaria's group to stumble back. Agent Vale and her reinforcements emerged from the rubble, guns at the ready. "I always knew you couldn't escape me," she sneered before opening fire. The protagonist felt their body transform in response to the threat, their muscles bulging and skin hardening. With a battle cry, they charged toward Agent Vale, determined to protect their newfound allies. The fight between Diaria's group and Agent Vale's men became a blur of weapons clashing, screams echoing through the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy. As the battle reached its climax, the protagonist found themselves face to face with Victor, who smiled maliciously as he aimed his weapon. "I've been waiting for this moment," he sneered before pulling the trigger. But even as the bullet pierced their chest, the protagonist felt a strange sensation wash over them. The impact sent them flying backward, but they stood once more, their body now imbued with an otherworldly power. Their eyes glowed brightly, and a low growl rumbled from deep within them. The protagonist's transformation was complete. They had become something new, something powerful. As the dust settled, Agent Vale and her reinforcements lay defeated before them. The battle for control of the chimeric reactor had reached a turning point, and Diaria's group knew that their journey was far from over. The protagonist turned to Cal, who looked at them with a mixture of awe and fear. "I never thought I'd see you become this," he stammered. The protagonist smiled, feeling a strange sense of peace wash over them as they embraced their new destiny. The ancient academy held many secrets, but the true power within the chimeric reactor was now clear. It was not just a tool, but a key to unlocking the full potential of the mutated humans. And with this newfound power, the protagonist knew they would stop at nothing to protect their allies and uncover the truth about their origins. As night fell over the forgotten cityscape, Diaria's group retreated to a makeshift shelter deep within the academy, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Their journey had only just begun, but they were no longer alone. They had each other, and the knowledge that they possessed the power to change the course of their fate. The protagonist looked up at the pulsating crystals lining the walls of the hidden chamber, feeling a sense of purpose burning within them. They knew they would face many trials in the days to come, but they were ready. The chimeric reactor had transformed them into something new, and they would embrace their destiny with open arms. As the darkness settled over the city, the protagonist closed their eyes, a smile playing on their lips. They were no longer just human. They were a beacon of hope in a world teetering on the brink of chaos. And together with Diaria and Kel, they would face whatever lay ahead, determined to uncover the secrets of the chimeric reactor and protect their newfound allies from those who sought to control them. The journey had only just begun, but the protagonist felt a strange sense of peace wash over them as they embraced their destiny. They were no longer alone. They were part of something greater than themselves, bound together by the power within the chimeric reactor and their unwavering determination to protect those they cared about. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, they found an ancient academy hidden within the cityscape, a place where humanity sought survival amidst mutation and danger. In this forgotten corner of the world, the protagonist discovered the truth about their own evolution and the true purpose of the chimeric reactor. However, their journey was far from over as they encountered other mutants struggling with their newfound powers, including Elias, a former scholar-turned-student, Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past, and Victor, a cunning politician who sought power for its own sake. Together, they fought against Agent Vale's relentless pursuit and the ever-evolving dangers lurking within the Academy. As the battles raged on, the protagonist grappled with the consequences of their transformation, both physical and emotional, and the weight of choices that lay ahead. The protagonist stood at the threshold of another hidden chamber, heart pounding as they prepared to face whatever awaited inside. The reactor strapped to Kel's chest hummed ominously, pulsating with an eerie glow. "Are you ready?" Diary asked, her eyes filled with a mixture of concern and determination. "I'm as ready as I'll ever be," the protagonist replied, steeling themselves for what was to come. Cal nodded, clutching his makeshift weapon tightly. "We're in this together." As they entered the chamber, their eyes adjusted to the dim light, revealing a strange artifact atop a pedestal. A crystal pulsated with an eerie glow, its surface shimmering like liquid silver. The reactor seemed to react to it, humming louder than ever before. "That's not good," Doraria murmured. "The reactor is responding to something in this crystal. We need to find out what," the protagonist said, advancing cautiously towards the artifact. Just then, a sudden blast echoed through the chamber, sending debris flying everywhere. Agent Vale and her reinforcements had found them. The battle for control of the Chimeric Reactor was far from over. The fight was intense, the group battling against Agent Vale's team, each side determined to claim the reactor for their own purposes. As the combat raged on, the protagonist couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. They weren't just fighting for their survival anymore. They were at the center of a cosmic war between two alien factions vying for control of this mysterious artifact and its power. In the chaos, Elias and Zara appeared, joining forces with Doraria and Kel against Agent Vale's relentless pursuit. The mutated students turned predators also emerged from the shadows, attacking without mercy. But even as they fought for their lives, the protagonist couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing, some crucial piece of information that could help them understand their true purpose and control the reactor's power. The battle raged on, the group struggling to stay one step ahead of their enemies, but as they fought, the protagonist felt an inexplicable pull towards the pulsating crystal. It was as if it called out to them, whispering secrets that only they could hear. They hesitated for a moment, torn between their duty and their curiosity. In that instant, Agent Vale seized her opportunity, lunging at the protagonist with a vengeance. The fight between Doraria's group and Agent Vale's men reached its climax as the protagonist wrestled with their inner demons, their humanity, and their newfound power. As they struggled against Agent Vale, they felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through them, the reactor humming louder than ever before. The crystal seemed to pulse in response, its light growing brighter and more intense. The protagonist's eyes widened as they realized what was happening. The crystal held the key to controlling the reactor and embracing their destiny as a weapon of unimaginable power. With renewed determination, the protagonist fought back against Agent Vale, their newfound strength and control evident in every strike. As the battle reached its climax, they grabbed the crystal from the pedestal and held it close to their chest, feeling the reactor's power surge within them. "I won't let you take this," the protagonist growled, their voice thick with emotion as they clutched the pulsating crystal. Agent Vale sneered, her eyes filled with hatred and desperation. You may not have a choice in the matter, but the protagonist was no longer afraid. They were ready to embrace their destiny and face whatever lay ahead. With a final powerful strike, they sent Agent Vale reeling, her reinforcements scrambling to retreat. As the dust settled and the battle came to an end, the group stood victorious, the protagonist clutching the pulsating crystal tightly in their hand. They had won this round, but they knew that the real fight was just beginning. With newfound confidence, the protagonist turned to Doraria, Cal, Elias, and Zara. "We have a long way to go, but at least now we know what we're fighting for." Together, they left the hidden chamber, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in their journey towards understanding the true purpose of the Chimeric Reactor and embracing their destiny as beings of unimaginable power. The end of this battle was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with danger, mystery, and ultimately choice. They were no longer just human, they were something more. And whether they liked it or not, they had become the centerpiece of a cosmic war that threatened to engulf the universe itself. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, the protagonists couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder and dread. They had come so far, yet they still had so much to learn about themselves and their place in this strange new world. But one thing was certain: they would face whatever lay ahead with courage, determination, and a crystal pulsating with the power to change everything. Echoes of the Chimeric Reactor. As they venture deeper into the ancient academy, they discover a labyrinthine complex filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals. The group is confronted by other mutants who have succumbed to the pressure and transformed into savage predators. In an intense battle, our heroes fight against both these mutated students turned predators as well as Agent Vale and her reinforcements. In the midst of this chaos, they learn more about their own transformations and the Academy's hidden curriculum designed to evolve humanity into powerful beasts capable of surviving the impending apocalypse. The group is faced with a decision: embrace their bestial nature or find another way to control it without losing their humanity. With Agent Vale closing in, the stakes are higher than ever, and our heroes must make a choice that will forever alter their lives and determine the fate of humanity itself. In the heart of the academy, the dimly lit corridor echoed with the distant sounds of battle. The protagonists, Daria, Carl Elias, and Zara had fought their way through hidden chambers, abandoned laboratories, and mutated students turned predators. Their journey was far from over as Agent Vale and her reinforcements were hot on their trail. The group moved cautiously down the corridor, each step bringing them closer to a makeshift shelter nestled within the ruins of the academy. Daria glanced at the chimeric reactor strapped to the protagonist's chest, her eyes filled with concern and determination. "We must find a way to control this power," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the sounds of battle. "We cannot allow it to consume you." The protagonist nodded, his mind racing with thoughts about their newfound abilities and the danger they posed. He knew that he had to master the reactor before Agent Vale could take advantage of its power. As they entered a nearby alleyway, a sudden explosion rocked the academy walls. The ground shook beneath their feet, sending debris raining down from above. The group ducked for cover as the smoke cleared, revealing a battlefield in the forgotten corner of the city. Agent Vale and her reinforcements were there, fighting against mutated students led by Elias and Zara. Our heroes watched in shock as both sides seemed evenly matched, their abilities and weapons glowing with an eerie energy. The protagonist clenched his fists, ready to join the fight and protect those he cared about. "We cannot let them win," Daria said firmly. "We have come too far to give up now." The group charged into the fray, their makeshift weapons in hand. The battle was fierce, with both sides showing no signs of backing down. The protagonist fought alongside Daria Kal and a few other mutants who had joined their cause. Meanwhile, Elias and Zara held their ground against Agent Vale's team. As the fight raged on, the protagonist could feel the reactor pulsating in response to the chaos around them. He gritted his teeth as he focused on controlling the power coursing through him, determined not to lose himself to it. In the heat of the battle, Daria was separated from the group and cornered by Agent Vale's men. The protagonist roared with rage, charging toward them to save her. His powers surged within him as he unleashed a devastating attack that sent Agent Vale's men flying. With their leader defeated, Agent Vale retreated, vowing to return with more reinforcements. As the battle came to an end, the group gathered around Daria, tending to her wounds. "We must leave this place," Kel said, his eyes scanning the rubble-filled intersection. "Agent Vale is not finished with us yet." The protagonist nodded in agreement. He knew that their journey was far from over, but he also felt a newfound sense of determination. They had faced impossible odds and come out on top. Together, they would continue to fight for control of the chimeric reactor and uncover the secrets of their own transformations. As they made their way through hidden passages and abandoned corridors, the protagonist couldn't shake the feeling that their true test was still ahead. Little did they know the revelation about their destiny as a weapon of cosmic power awaited them in the depths of the ancient academy. Daria clung to consciousness as her body fought against the ravages of a brutal battle against Agent Vale's reinforcements. The group had finally managed to escape the academy, but at a cost. Her chest throbbed with pain where the reactor strapped to her chest had taken the brunt of the attack. Protagonist Daria murmured weakly, "You must find a way to control this reactor. It's the key to our survival." The protagonist glanced down at the pulsating crystal embedded in their chest, feeling its energy coursing through their veins. They could already feel the changes it had wrought upon them, the increased strength, speed, and heightened senses. But they knew that these gifts came with a price. "I will," the protagonist promised. "But we need to find somewhere safe first." Carl, their fellow mutant ally, nodded grimly as he kept watch over the group. They moved cautiously through the abandoned alleyways and hidden passages of the cityscape, evading detection from any remaining forces loyal to Victor or Agent Vale. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, the protagonist could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down upon them. The reactor was more than just an alien artifact. It held the power to shape their future and determine the fate of humanity itself. Suddenly, a faint hum echoed through the air, drawing their attention to a nearby alleyway. Cal tensed, his eyes scanning the shadows as he motioned for everyone to be quiet. "Mutants," he whispered, "they're closing in." A group of mutated students turned predators emerged from the shadows, snarling and growling menacingly. The protagonists braced themselves, ready to defend their allies. But just as the first attacker lunged towards Daria, a blast of energy erupted from her outstretched hand, sending them flying back into the alleyway. "Agent Vale and her reinforcements," she gasped. "They're still pursuing us." The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, with the group fighting off wave after wave of mutated students turned predators. At one point, the protagonist found themselves face to face with Elias, the former scholar, who had become a student at the academy. His eyes gleamed with madness as he attacked, driven by the power surging through his veins. "You should have stayed dead," Elias snarled. "You took everything from me." Zara, the fierce warrior with a mysterious past, stepped between them, her weapons whirling in expert precision. Together they fought off Elias and the other mutated students, finally driving them back into the shadows. As the dust settled, Daria looked at the protagonist with newfound determination. "We must find a way to control this reactor," she said, and fast. The group moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy, searching for answers amidst the ruins and pulsating crystals. They knew that time was running out, and with each passing moment, their enemies grew closer. In a hidden chamber nestled within the rubble, they discovered strange artifacts and alien technology, the remnants of an ancient civilization that once held the secrets to controlling the reactor. With renewed hope, the protagonist embraced their destiny, vowing to uncover the truth behind their transformation and the purpose of the Chimeric Reactor. Echoes-of-the-Chimeric-Reactor. Daria, a brilliant scientist who holds secrets about the protagonist's past and the origin of the Chimeric Reactor. She has dedicated her life to studying its effects on humanity, believing it is the key to survival in a world rapidly changing due to mutations. Despite her knowledge, she remains conflicted about the consequences of using such powerful technology. Agent Vale, a relentless pursuer from a shadowy organization that seeks control over the Chimeric Reactor for their own gain. She is driven by a personal vendetta against the protagonist and will stop at nothing to capture them. Her methods are often ruthless, but she harbors secrets about her past connection to the protagonist's transformation. Cal, a fellow mutant who serves as an unlikely ally to the protagonist. He offers guidance and support in their journey, though he remains mysterious due to his connection with the ancient academy and the reactor. Despite their differences, Kale is loyal to the protagonist and shares a common goal of uncovering the truth behind their mutations. The protagonist, a human infused with alien technology that grants them incredible power and mutation abilities. They struggle with balancing their humanity and bestial nature while navigating a dangerous world filled with threats from both humans and mutants. With the help of Dar-Aria and Cal, they strive to understand their true purpose and control the reactor strapped to their chest. Elias, a former scholar who became a student at the academy. He grapples with his newfound powers and the weight of his past as he evolves into a powerful beast, torn between his human emotions and the predatory instincts that come with mutation. Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past who seeks to survive the Academy's trials and become the ultimate beast. She is fiercely protective of her identity and alliances, making her an unpredictable adversary for Dar-Aria's group. Victor, a cunning politician who uses his charm and wit to manipulate others in pursuit of power for its own sake. He seeks to gain control over the Chimeric-Reactor for personal gain, leading him into conflict with both the protagonist and Agent Vale. As Dar-Aria's group huddles within a makeshift shelter in the heart of the Academy, they exchange weary glances, their hearts heavy with the burden of the reactor's power and the knowledge that Agent Vale and her reinforcements are closing in. Cal taps on a crystalline wall, revealing an opening to a hidden chamber nestled within the ruins. "We have no choice," he murmurs, his eyes flickering with determination. "In here lies our only hope." With renewed resolve, they push through the alleyway and enter the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient academy. The air is thick with dust and the scent of decay, but the group moves swiftly, guided by Cale's memories of his time within these halls. They pass abandoned laboratories on the outskirts of the city, their walls adorned with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals that seem to hum in response to their presence. "This is where I was brought," Cal explains, gesturing towards an ancient cityscape visible through a cracked window. "I was one of many test subjects." The group moves deeper into the academy, encountering more mutants along the way, some friendly, others hostile. One such confrontation leaves them battered and bruised, but they press onward, driven by the knowledge that time is running out. As they round a corner, they are met with the blast that follows Agent Vale's arrival, her reinforcements hot on their heels. The group scrambles for cover as the battle ensues, weapons clashing and mutants roaring in the chaos. Dar-Aria's eyes dart towards the reactor strapped to the protagonist's chest, the pulsating crystal embedded within seeming to flicker with each explosion. In the midst of the chaos, the group is suddenly set upon by mutated students turned predators. Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past, leads the attack, her eyes locked on the reactor strapped to the protagonist's chest. Dar-Aria and Cal engage in a desperate battle against their former student, while the protagonist struggles to maintain control over their mutations in the heat of combat. In the end, it is the reactor's power that proves decisive. The protagonist unleashes a devastating burst of energy, incapacitating Zara and her followers. Agent Vale watches from a distance, her expression a mixture of shock and anger as she realizes her grip on the chimeric reactor has weakened even further. With the immediate threat neutralized for now, Dar-Aria's group takes a moment to catch their breath, their hearts pounding in their chests. They have survived another day, but they know that Agent Vale will not give up easily. As they make their way deeper into the academy, they find themselves faced with a series of hidden chambers filled with strange artifacts and alien technology. In one such chamber, they discover a crystal pendant similar to the one embedded in the ground near where they first encountered the reactor. Cal takes it gently from its pedestal, his eyes wide with recognition. "This is the key," he whispers, holding the pendant up to the light. The pendant activates the reactor and allows us to control its power. Dar-Aria nods slowly, her mind racing as she considers the implications. If they can learn how to use the pendant effectively, they may be able to control the reactor without succumbing entirely to their bestial nature. But there is little time for contemplation, as they soon hear Agent Vale's voice echoing through the corridors, her pursuit relentless and unyielding. As Agent Vale closes in, her relentless pursuit intensifies, forcing the group to fight for survival and protect the reactor at all costs. The Academy reveals itself as an ancient battleground between two alien factions vying for control of the mysterious artifact and its power. With time running out, the protagonist must confront their past, embrace their destiny, and decide whether they will continue to live as human or become a weapon of unimaginable power in the grand cosmic conflict. In a final showdown with Agent Vale and her reinforcements, Dark Area's group faces their most significant challenge. Yet, battling both mutated students turned predators and Agent Vale herself, the outcome will determine not only their fate, but also the balance of power in the universe. The dimly lit corridor stretched out before them, the air thick with tension. Area, Cal, and the protagonist moved cautiously, their senses heightened as they neared the hidden chamber deep within the Academy. A low growl echoed through the empty halls, sending a shiver down the protagonist's spine. "We must be getting close," Area whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of their own breathing. The key to unlocking our true potential lies within. As they turned a corner, a group of mutated students sprang from the shadows, snarling and baring their teeth. The protagonist's heart raced as they prepared for battle, their body tensing in anticipation of the fight ahead. With a swift motion, Area unsheathed her weapon and engaged the first creature, her movements fluid and precise. Cal followed suit, his eyes locked on the enemy before him. The protagonist stepped forward, their reactor humming softly beneath their clothes as they felt the power coursing through them. They knew this was a turning point. Either they would embrace their destiny or succumb to fear and despair. With renewed determination, they charged into the fray, their enhanced strength and agility allowing them to take down several mutants at once. The battle raged on, the group working together seamlessly to fend off the relentless attackers. Area's eyes flashed with concern as she noticed Agent Vale and her reinforcements approaching, their intentions clear. "Take the reactor by force. We cannot let them have it," Area said firmly, her gaze never leaving the oncoming threat. "We must fight." The group steeled themselves for the inevitable confrontation, knowing that this would be their final stand. As they braced themselves, the protagonist felt a strange calm wash over them. They were ready to face whatever came next. The battle was fierce, with Agent Vale and her team proving formidable adversaries. The group fought on, determined to protect the reactor and one another. In the end, it was their unity that proved decisive, as they managed to drive off both mutated students and Agent Vale's reinforcements. Breathless and battered, Area's group retreated to a makeshift shelter deep within the Academy, taking stock of their injuries and regrouping for what lay ahead. As they rested, the protagonist couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The next morning, the group emerged from their hiding place, ready to confront whatever challenges awaited them in the hidden chamber. As they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient Academy, they could feel the power of the reactor pulsating within them, urging them forward. Upon reaching the chamber, they found it filled with strange artifacts and pulsating crystals, each one emitting a faint glow that seemed to call out to them. The protagonist felt drawn to one crystal in particular, its energy resonating with their own. As they reached out to touch it, they had a vision, a glimpse into the cosmic war between two alien factions vying for control of this mysterious artifact and its power. With newfound understanding, the protagonist knew that they were not just a test subject, but a critical component in this ancient conflict. They would have to make a choice, remain human or embrace their destiny as a weapon of unimaginable power. As they wrestled with this decision, Area and Cal offered guidance, reminding them of the consequences that came with both paths. In the end, the protagonist chose to embrace their destiny, knowing that it was the only way to protect those they cared about and bring peace to the universe. With a surge of power, they felt the reactor strapped to their chest react, its energy coursing through them like never before. As they prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Area and Kel stood by their side, ready to support them in their new role as a beacon of hope in this dark and dangerous world. Together, they stepped out into the forgotten corner of the cityscape, ready to confront the cosmic war that awaited them. As the sun set on the horizon, casting long shadows across the rubble-filled intersection, the protagonist knew that their journey was far from over. But with the reactor's power coursing through them and their friends by their side, they felt ready to face whatever came next, ready to become a force for good in this strange and wondrous universe.